Monday, February 10th, 2025. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Jack Perry,
Here.
Jennifer Klock,
Here.
Michael Del Santo,
Present.
Valerie DiPaolo,
Here.
William Dietzick,
Here.
James Morelli,
Here.
Toni Morrison,
Here.
Christopher Palmieri,
Here.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here, Councilman Dietzick is remote today, and for those who couldn't hear online, he's participating via phone for this meeting. If everybody can please stand for the prayer and the flag salute.
Heavenly Father, may we consider the people of Southington and always render what is right and just for our citizens. Help us to be compassionate and caring for each individual while still seeking what is appropriate for the entire community. Give us wisdom and guidance. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Item number 2, we're looking for a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the Town Council meeting of January 27th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you,
I'll
Chris.
second.
And Mike, a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 9-0. If it pleases the council, I'd like to swap items 3 and 4. I'd like to have item 4, the Barnes Museum book presentation, move to item 3. Anybody have objection to that? Okay, so we'll move on to item 3, Barnes Museum book presentation. We have Christina Volpe with us here today.
Good evening,
We're
everyone.
very fortunate. We're excited to hear about this.
Thank you so much. It's so good to
Thanks
be
for
here.
coming.
Thank you so much for letting me bring you some homework. So if everyone will open their books, please. No, I'm just kidding. So you have before you the latest release from Arcadia Publishing, the History Press. You've probably seen Arcadia Publishing around town before. Liz Kopek has done 2 books with them before. The Images of America series, a lot of our older images of Southington come from those books. You'll notice this has a little bit more text behind it. This is with their History Press. This is actually Southington's first history book, a comprehensive one, since the 1920s. So we're about 100 years later. It's Francis Atwater, 1925, wrote History of Southington. This is about the Barnes Museum, but it's really through the lens of Southington. So you'll see here, Mr. Wooding, our town historian, did write the foreword, and that's for 2 reasons. He's our town historian and my research buddy. But he also, his father, Milton Wooding, was the first curator of the Barnes Museum when it became a museum in 1974 and opened to the public in 1975. So we are now celebrating 50 years of being a museum, and it's really thanks to you guys. And so the book coming out is the perfect time for it. When I say that this is really a book about Southington, I'll have you flip to page 41 really quick, and I'm not going to take too much of your time, but I just want to address the paragraph above here, which discusses the family's connection to Factory Square. Factory Square began after the American Civil War as the Southington Cutlery Company. They made pocket knives and then transitioned into making these beautiful silver pieces you see on your left, which is called silver-plated hollowware. They were so good at making this, in fact, they were only open for 10 years. And then International Silver Company out of Meriden, you may be familiar with, swiped up the whole department and all of its designs. And at the Barnes today, we have a lot of interesting pieces from the Cutlery Company. And if Eamon Bradley, who built the Barnes Museum in 1835, didn't build Southington Cutlery Company, Southington wouldn't be able to say that we have one of the earliest successes in the state of Connecticut in mill revitalizations. The Southington Cutlery Company factory building has been occupied since 1867, and it's still awesome today. We often tell our guests, you need a coffee, you need a cupcake, you need to throw an axe. I know where to tell you to go. And then right below it, Southington Water Company. Eamon Bradley started the Southington Water Company, which is still the footprint of the Southington Water Department today. So when we talk about the Southington Water Department, and you can see the ad on the next page here, for domestic uses, largest shareholder was the town of Southington. It provides a bit of history of how the water department was formed through this lens. So it's really not just about the museum and our collection, it's really about the town of Southington, again, through the museum's collection. We all know about Bradley Memorial Hospital, but did we know about the water department? Did we know about the roads and the land use? Which is another page I want to show you. Page 57 here notes Eamon Bradley's daughter and how much she gave back to the town of Southington. Emma Bradley gave more than $30,000 to 3 cemeteries, $1,000 to each church in town when she died, $5,000 to the First Congregational Church. She also left $5,000 to the town of Southington for 2 of the memorials that you still pass by today. One next to our beloved downtown Plantsville Dunkin' Donuts. It's a small fountain. It says to Edward Yeomans, a lover of animals. The other sister fountain is next to our beloved Fritter booth. You may know that one very well. It's beautiful. Emma gave both of those fountains, as well as a third that's on the town green across from the former bank, which was the initial Southington Savings Bank that her father helped secure the charter for. So the book is trying to illustrate that the Barnes Museum is so much more than just Bradley Barnes's, quote, hoard collection, right? There was a purpose for why he did it, and this book aims to kind of give some insight into that. What else here? I wanted to point out one more thing. Bless you. Thank you. No, I think on page 58, you see the Elks. That was Emma's house. So really, there's so many structures here in town, I don't think people realize we're connected. Finally, there's an entire chapter, I'll direct you to page 76, on the Civil War letters that we have at the museum. As you may or may not know, the Barnes Museum is home to one of the most historic collections of Civil War letters in New England, if not the United States. 200 letters from Captain Andrew Upson between 1861 and his sad, untimely death in 1864 on the front lines. He wrote home almost twice a day to Southington. He had a lot of opinions. We try to summarize this, but on page 76 is a photograph I found in our collection that had never been identified to him before. And consulting with historians and using contemporary technology, we were able to identify the young chap, Lieutenant Upson, before he left for the front lines. The image that we have been using for the last 50 years is actually on page 82, and that's after he got out of the Confederate Libby prison. He was in prison for 2 weeks, he didn't eat. He had to walk 20 miles out of camp after he was let off on parole. He's emancipated in this photo, very skinny, a soldier on furlough. His wife comes to see him during that time. It's very compelling, it's very moving. But now we are happy to say that we have one of the first identified photographs of him as a soldier now. We don't have to present him in this way anymore. We can show him more holistically. We've already gotten offered to do a second book just on the letters alone, but I'm tired, if you can imagine. So we're going to let this one ride for a little bit. That's really it, my friends. There's a lot in here. It begins with Mr. Wooding in the 1970s. It ends with him as well. It ends with the Barnes Museum's first intern, who, when he passed away, left recently in 2022. He passed away. The Barnes Museum's first intern, Raymond Smith, gave us 120 Emerson Hazard glass plate negatives. He was Southington's premier photographer. So if I'm proud of anything in this book, I think it's the names that I mention of the people who really made the collection what it is today, from Mr. Wooding to Raymond Smith to Barbara Bell, Bradley Barnes's nurse. I just came from meeting with Mr. Santago at the library board, and it's an honor to be able to talk about his family's legacy in this book as well. This is a community book, and I hope that you all see a little bit of yourselves in it, because it's remarkable to be able to tell this story after all this time. So you may be wondering why you have a free book in front of you and why I'm not hawking you for money. All proceeds for this book will go to the Friends of the Barnes Museum, which is its own 501c3 nonprofit to help support. You may recall back in 2011, they helped restore the player piano, our 1914 player piano. Right now, we're trying to raise additional funds, we have some secured, to get the Barnes Museum painted. If all 500 copies of this sell, we'll be able to do that. So my hope is that from here on out, there will be something to make sure that group stays with us. As you may know, some of these friends groups are dwindling, and I want to make sure Southington and the Barnes Museum always has something to fall back on. So the only thing I got out of this was my name, and we have an agreement with the town of Southington to ensure that community members such as yourselves get 100 free copies of the book passed out between Southington schools, the library, this evening. I think that's like, I'm like 15 down now, only how many more to go? Just to make sure that it's accessible to everyone. You'll also see it at your local CVS, Target, Barnes & Noble, and Costco. So it'll be everywhere where books are sold with Arcadia Publishing. But tell people to buy from us, please. And if you have an Amazon account, review it if you like it. If you don't review it. Talk to me personally. Just kidding. Questions, please. Anything about the book?
Any questions for?
Quick question. Is there a link? I mean, can you go on the Barnes Museum web, but how about on the town website? Maybe we can share it, put it on social media. Because a lot of folks move out of Southington.
Yeah.
And may be interested in getting a copy of this.
Absolutely.
So, for shipping and all that good stuff.
Certainly. So right now, yes, if you go to the Barnes Museum website, it'll redirect you to the Friends of the Barnes Museum website. And their copies are shipping free, tax free. So you're paying that $24.99, and the Barnes Museum as a nonprofit, the Friends of the Barnes as a nonprofit will ship you your book gratis. We will work with the town, hopefully, to get something on the website. The official launch, mark your calendars, tell your friends, bring them all, is the 25th at Kinsman Brewing. And we're hoping that night to get a great turnout and to really get the word out about that. But, so yes, we're working on all of that. Thank you. That was a great question.
Great job.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Chris?
Not so much a question. I just need to give you a shout out again. I know earlier this year when you led the tours, I shared how your love and passion for history in our town is contagious. So
you.
I really just want to thank you for everything you do. I think everyone up here can tell. I think I probably speak for all of us. Your enthusiasm is overwhelming, and really bringing our town and history to life. We can't thank you enough.
Thank you
keep
so
up the
much.
great work.
Thank you. Thank you. Hope you do your homework. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. Christina, yeah, this is, I can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
Is there something, as you were doing the research and writing it, was there something that you came across, learned, that surprised you or you didn't know about?
Oh, certainly. I think one of the beautiful things about the Barnes Museum is that we're constantly uncovering things there. It's a treasure trove of artifacts and information, whether it be in letters that I find in the attic, or on Friday, a locket from 1780 that we will use in our upcoming 250th celebration, here in town. So yes, I learn things all of the time. A lot of the base knowledge, though, like the Southington history, is well cited in the book. You'll be able to kind of self-explore if you want to learn more, such as like Bradley's will, Emma's will. Where did I get these numbers from? You can kind of really map out the entire footprint of the town through the book, including the town hall. Where the town hall is today used to be a hotel called the Bradley Hotel and Saloon. And in the 1920s, there was a Prohibition bust there. And we'll talk about that on the 25th, so no more spoilers. But yes, we learn a lot throughout this process.
Good, thank you.
Jen?
Just to also thank you. I've had the pleasure of working with you over the
Thank you so
years,
much.
and I just want to point out why this is more than history. So for anyone that's listening or here and is like, oh, that's great, it's history. You know, maybe I'm not into history. It's so much more than our history, because history breeds culture. And learning about the Barnes family and how they've invested in Southington, and it continues today with all the families and the nonprofits that all work together to invest in our town and our community. And the bar was set by the Barnes family. And
You
that's why
get
it's
it.
so important. So thank you for bringing it to light, because it's really important that our children continue to see it and learn the culture so that we can continue it.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman McClock, for your support with this. And I will mention, too, the book is dedicated in a way to all of you. I did dedicate it to my Nono Attilio, who brought my family here in the 1970s. I'm not an off-the-boat Italian. My father was born in Melbourne, Australia. So if anything, I'm not even Italian at all. Anywho, but I thanked him, and then I thanked my daughter, Anna Maria, and all the children growing up in Southington, just like I did. May we always stay curious and remember history is all around us. We just have to look. So it's really for all of you as well that grew up here. This is for you.
Any other comments? Awesome. Christina, thank you so much. This is amazing.
Thank
You're an amazing person.
Aw,
You're doing a
thanks.
great job. Always
I
love
did.
when you come here and share your knowledge and some of the facts that you find in your exploration of life in our community. It's really just really cool, and we're very fortunate to have you, so thank you. Can you just tell us, maybe just quickly, in 30 seconds or less, just tell people about the Barnes Trust. What does it do? Like, tell, because there's financial that comes behind this as well.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, the trust meaning the Friends of the Barns, or
No.
the trust that currently helps with the Barns, or?
The Barnes, Bradley Barnes Trust.
Through Main Street.
Through the Main Street
Oh,
Foundation, yeah.
So the Bradley
So
Barnes
there's-
Trust through the Main Street is actually pretty hands-off for myself, but Bradley and Leela did establish that trust specifically for mental health purposes. And that's because there were a couple of crises in their family, especially with Leela herself. There's a gap in the diaries that we attribute to a medical condition that Bradley actually, if you were going to turn your house into a museum, what would you hawk out the back window? He didn't want that information out there. So part of that trust was established by him after his wife died. He died 20 years later to ensure, similarly to Bradley Memorial Hospital, that people always can get care here in Southington. The reason why Bradley was established was because family members passed away because they couldn't get care close enough. Emergency services weren't close enough. And I, especially after my accident in November, I'm extremely grateful for Bradley and everything they do. So hopefully that answered that question. But yes,
That's
the
wonderful.
trust continues to sustain that mission today.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to go, but let me know and review it on Amazon.
Will do. And if we want to make a donation to support this and the foundation, where do we go again?
The Friends of the Barnes Museum via our website. It's right on the front of the barnesmuseum.org website.
Wonderful.
And again, join us on 2/25 at Kinsman Brewing for the official launch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
You too. Bye, Jessica. Excellent. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 4, Water Department Well 10 Project Presentation by Superintendent Douglas Arndt.
Good evening, I'm Doug Arndt,
Welcome.
Superintendent of Water, and before Christina leaves, we had such a great time as she visited the Water Department, and again, what an appropriate presentation before mine, because we've been around for the 140 years, and one of the biggest attractions to Southington was the water and its resources, and again, the water was originally established to support the fire protection for all these industrial facilities coming to town, and so again, thank you so much, Christina. I look forward to, again,
It was an
meeting
excellent
again.
cut through to Mill Street, too.
Yep.
Man, I missed that.
So we-
Be able to fly right through and just get to Mill Street without getting out onto Route 10. We used to go smash bottles in the bottle
Okay.
recovery.
Doug, it's all yours.
Thank you. So tonight is it happens to be our Well 10 project. This is the same project that before I came on in the fall of '21, the Water Department had bonded approximately $2.5 million for the purpose of construction. At the time, it was the intent of the Water Department to fully fund this internally, i.e. with the 2.5 bonding from the town. We ran into some engineering-based challenges, shall we say. We've got delayed, I'm looking at my calendar now, which here is the winter of '25. And in that time, actually, we've been very fortunate. It seems like the cost estimates have gone up and down. But, tonight, I should also refresh the commission's, council's memory that I've been before you before to request permission to apply for clean water, DWRSF drinking water funds, and that was granted. We've applied for those funds, and now I'm back before you tonight to actually move the process forward. The town manager and I have gotten a long list of items that need to be done. We're going to be working in collaboration to get all the paperwork required. The way things have happened previously in the past have been different ways. This standard has more of a collaboration between the water department and the town administration, town council, board of water commissioners in terms of how the bonding is done. So there's a pretty complex list of things here, but I look forward to working with the town manager to check off all the boxes. Tonight is really just a large context, remind the town council that we've been pursuing funding to construct Well 10. Well 10 will be the largest drinking water well in town, and actually may be the most productive drinking water well in the entire state. It's adjacent to our Well 9 off of Dunham Place, towards the northern portion of town, and during regular flows, it could actually produce almost 2/3 of our the town's needs for water during off-peak seasons. So this is been something that the water department has planned for a long period of time, and at this point, we're just pursuing with the funding. Not to be lengthy, I didn't bring a bunch of presentations, but if anyone is interested in knowing the details, they could contact me. I can actually, meet anyone at any time, and we'll go over in detail. But effectively, this is for a well that's been already drilled, and it's just for a well house that's no different than the one over here on Mill Street, matter of fact. It just sits on top, and it provides some chlorinization and some other treatment chemicals into the water before it goes into our drinking system. The funding of the mechanism, the bond resolution, which at a given time in the future, the council would be required or requested to adopt, is for the total price of the project, which is a DPH requirement of 3.5, effectively almost $3.6 million. But in reality, the amount of monies that the water department expects to expend on this through this loan are more like 1.3. And that's because we already have $2.3 million in that bonded money that we previously acquired from the town. So I don't know if there's any questions. This is, again, a collaborative effort, our first time through, my first time through here, and I think the water department's first time through this bonding process in a number of years. So there definitely will be a collaboration between myself and the town manager as we kind of trip forward through all the requirements that are needed to put this type of funding into place.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just for clarification, the Water Commission's going to take this matter up at their next meeting.
Correct.
At that point, it'll be right before the town council to vote to authorize the water department to apply for the funding. We just wanted to make sure that you guys had a chance to get all your questions answered prior to, so they can turn around the package. The bond package is time sensitive, so we want to make sure we can get on the next agenda after the water department's meeting. So that's why Doug's here today.
Yeah.
Any questions for the superintendent?
I should note that we went out to bid, got a very attractive bid, and we have a good contractor, D'Amato Construction out of Bristol, who does great work, has been awarded it. We got approval from DPH to award it. We have a kickoff meeting tomorrow. So the project is already starting to initiate. We're initiating the beginning of the project with town fund, with water department funds, and with these funds that we're requesting, we'll be able to complete the project.
Doug, can you tell us where will the access be? I'm assuming it's going to be from Dunham?
Yeah.
Where will the access be? And then roughly where is the pump house going to be, maybe in relation to something, there's a church there, there's a field to the northeast of the church. Can you give us just an idea of where it's going to be?
Yeah, so this part of is actually on the other side, on the east side of Dunham Place. There's already one of our wells there. It's right next to our well 9. Okay. It's right in our property. Effectively, is the driving range for the golf course. Is actually part of this piece of property. So this is just a duplication of our existing well 9, 10. We've had very positive interaction with our neighbors. We'll be doing a number of things during construction to help accommodate some concerns that they had when it came before planning zoning some time back.
And will you have some baseline information and some ways to check the effect of the nearby access to water from the residents? Because I know some people may have some concern about,
Sure.
well, gee, if they put a pump in this area, how does that affect, access to if I have a well or something going on, water table, for example? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. First of all, the water department works in two different worlds, two different jurisdictions. One's the Department of Health for the water quality in terms of its impact on public health, and then we also interact with DEEP in terms of the environmental impact to the aquifer. So in 22, we were just completed and got approved a diversion permit. And this is where DEEP goes into asking all those questions. in terms of, monitoring all the different wells in the area. And the bottom line is that where we're drawing from is going to be, is at a different level down in the aquifer when those residents are. And there should be, there will be no impact. There hasn't been. We're actually not going to be withdrawing any more water than we have been in the past. So the addition of this well allows us to, the other well was installed, I guess, in, I believe, the 1990s. So it's getting up there in age. So this gives us a little bit of redundancy, and we can operate the wells, but both together or separately. But we're not permitted by DEEP to pull any more water actually out of the ground than we have been. So there will be absolutely no impact to anybody else's wells or the rivers in the area.
Thank you. Any other, Jack, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a whole nother project that I know you mentioned at Public Works in the past was Harness and Tanglewood. How are you guys making out with that?
We had done some investigation over there, and there was really not a suitable location for us to put a well. This is adjacent to the some of the New Britain properties, but there was no future plans, unfortunately, to do anything over there.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your permission for allowing us to do that. That was, we did some investigation on the town property, but it didn't lead to anything fruitful for,
It could have been one of our best wells, right, if we were able to do one?
there's water there. It actually pulls from the same stream. There's some complexities to it, and there's other dynamics, so we can potentially look at that in the future. But in the immediate future, nothing, but it's still a resource that's in town. And the city of New Britain, who actually owns the well, really doesn't have any legal mechanism to actually extract water from there. Yeah, technically, the Southington Water Department owns the DPH permit to pull water in the aquifer, even though that New Britain owns the surface property. They don't have legal permission from DEEP to, use the water for beneficial use. So the town is still in a very strong strategical position on that.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
One final word, I'm available. I have an open door policy. Anybody has any questions or would like to see any components of the water department, I would love to welcome you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 5, councilperson communications. Anybody? Jen?
Yep, just a couple. One, just a reminder to sign up for the LEAF CSA. So if you sign up in February, you get 5% off. So just, that's the fruit and vegetable share. So that's coming up. And then also something for people that are not online, there's a pictorial image going around that I think is really helpful. So the Southington Fire Department offers free home safety analysis if you call or email, and they'll come to your home for free and provide an assessment. And I think that's really valuable information because it's not only for your protection, but it's also for protection when our firefighters go out to the scene, that we're keeping them safe. So you can call 860-621-3202 at extension 8100. And I'm going to not say this name. I'm going to spell it. If you wanted to email, you can do tsangaridEsk@southington.org.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jen. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Tony?
Yeah, just quickly. The America 250 initiative in Connecticut is going to be handled by not having a sort of a single, celebration of the 250th anniversary in Connecticut, but it's going to consist of every town essentially doing their own particular thing, and a sort of coordination between them to share best practices and essentially what people are doing. So we're on the first phone call, myself and Councillor Morelli. It kicked off slowly because we have a long way to go, but it's going to be interesting seeing what other towns do, to celebrate this. It's actually an interesting thing for me because the first year I was in this country was the 200th anniversary. It's been a long a long trek since then, but it's great to have the 250th anniversary celebration. So it's something that I think we'll have probably a private-public capability to drive that. Obviously, we'll be doing something, but we'll put that together as we get closer, to 2026.
Tony, Chris, if there's somebody, Tony attended just the first one with Jim, I think it would be good to have somebody from your caucus as well join the team. So if you guys can talk about that. Essentially, there's no script for how we're going to celebrate the country's 250th anniversary. So we have to figure that out. We've got a year and 4 months or so. I was thinking, with the apple harvest experience that you have, you might have some ideas. So talk it over and maybe reach out to Tony and just let him know who else can join. I think we probably have to get a broader team together. Maybe some people who are involved in the apple harvest can also be involved in this. So if you guys can just think about it together, and then to the town manager, I think we have to have a few funds available in there. I know you're talking about putting a little bit in there. We can decide as a council how much to fund that or not to fund that based on what the initial discussions are, if we want to have a few funds together for that. So I think it's important that we celebrate and we do something. Obviously, it's going to be on the 4th of July in the next 4th of July after this. Are you all set, Tony?
Yep.
Jim?
I did want to comment also, Chris, that there's a big education component. They want to get kids really involved in the schools, whether it's a program in school or we do something civically. Again, this discussion that we were on was really a roundtable with various communities to talk about what it's going to be. And I think there's a lot of potential, and like Tony said, there's really no set program, but there was a lot of interest in education.
Right. Steps, education, I think there's a nice play here.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. Anybody else? Val?
Thank you. I'm just thinking on that, is there a rep maybe from the Board of Ed?
We just started, so you guys talk amongst yourself. Let's see who else we can add to this. And if we can get, the more the merrier. I think we have to start to build this out. We've got roughly a year or so to plan it, but.
It's a monthly Zoom call.
Yeah.
Anybody
too
can be
bad.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to, just a couple things. The fourth edition of the Southington Behavioral Health Resource Directory through the Wheeler Clinic with the grant from Main Street Community Foundation. So that is complete, and hard copies are now available. It's an excellent resource, and I have just the third edition. I haven't received the fourth edition yet. If anybody wants hard copies, they can contact Holly Hansen directly at Wheeler, or get in touch with me, and I'll put people in touch with Holly to get those hard copies. It's such a valuable resource for our families, our residents, our children, and it's just continuing to grow, every year. And the other thing was, I just wanted to give a big shout out to the Public Works with all the snow that's we've had. They really have. I see them up and down our street, and they're doing a great job. And I know there's more to come, but just a shout out, big thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll dig deeper in the Public Works section of tonight's agenda, but I think it's important that, maybe we look at how we record our meetings, especially the subcommittees that come to the council. And the reason being is, us as a council, we sit here and we get a recommendation from a subcommittee, and we kind of, we do our due diligence, but for the most part, it's kind of rubber stamped, and a lot of the discussion happens in those subcommittees. Minutes are obviously taken, but they're not verbatim a lot of times, so I would love to try to see how we can increase the accessibility to residents. Everybody has to, have jobs, and some people have to work multiple jobs to make ends meet. So, I had a resident reach out that couldn't show up to the Public Works meeting, and they stated, how do you guys have a meeting at 4 o'clock when people are working or commuting to home? So it got me thinking. I know the town clerk, I've talked to her in the past in regards to what the cost is if somebody wants to record a meeting, and I know the answer was $100. So Public Works, for instance, we meet, I think it's about 10 times a year. So for $1,000, we could actually, video record them. They happen right in this room. We already spent the infrastructure for the audio-visual, so I think it would just be very beneficial that whichever meetings that are easily able to record, we try to do that, and then we broaden that just to make things more transparent to the residents, because even though I serve on the council, I'm going to speak by, my personal experience. There's a lot of things that aren't transparent that happen. And there's a lot of gray area that I come across all the time, and I'm doing my due diligence, but sometimes I even run into the same roadblocks of you're reading meeting minutes that aren't verbatim. So I think that would be important for us to discuss, especially at small money, to make sure that our residents feel that everything's operating in the most transparent manner in today's day and age. Another thing, I wanted to just thank the town manager. I reached out to him in regards to Rex Forge. Obviously, we have a company that's closing. Over 100 jobs are being lost. It sounds like some are Southington residents, that are being affected. But I think it's the bigger picture as well. Is we have 100 patrons that were coming to Southington, right? Over 100. Buying gas in our community, buying lunch, dinners maybe, grocery shopping. So this is a big loss for our community, even though it may not be all residents of Southington, it's a huge thing. So I appreciate the town manager reaching out, to the company to make sure that, we lend whatever town services we have for the residents that are being affected by this. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. Anybody else? Jim?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I had the pleasure last Saturday of attending the 13th Annual Veterans Appreciation Dinner at the Elks. Our Southington Elks is celebrating 80 years in town. Also, our state president of the Elks is a member of our Southington Lodge, Mr. Mike Johnson. And I had the pleasure of representing the town council with the chair, Mr. Chaplinsky. And it was, again, this is my 5th year, I think, doing it, and it was well received. So thank you for that. I did also want to follow up, Mr. Manager, with, I asked in a previous meeting about bus stop locations on Queen Street, and I didn't really hear that we had a follow-up on that yet, and I did want to mention that I have seen several individuals in very random locations standing on the side of Queen Street, and I just wanted to know if there are dedicated bus stops or the bus stops wherever it wants to stop.
There's dedicated bus stops. I, too, have received reports from the police department among citizens that they have stopped in the middle of the road or on non-designated stops. We've reached out to the Department of Transportation several times, most recently last week. I've also given the contact information for some of the folks who have reached out with concerns, asking them to reach out as well. I believe the council's been on some of those emails. We have, I believe, Mr. Morrison advised me, he has somebody coming from the DOT. I think he'll cover it in the Transportation Subcommittee report. So I think he could talk more about that at that time.
Okay, I just want to point out that it's dangerous for not only the motorists and the people, but it's dangerous for even the vehicles that are traveling in different directions. So to just have a bus stop randomly on Queen Street is not really a great idea. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Anybody else? Chris?
A couple items. Just want to bring everyone up to speed. We're very fortunate, again, to have steps in our community that's really looking out for all the latest trends and keeping our kids safe. So with that, the latest substance known as kratom is something that is available to our youth right now. It's a herbal substance that can produce stimulant-like effects. And right now, it's not regulated the way some other substances are. So I can give this for the minutes. This is just a fact sheet about kratom from the Department of Justice and the DEA. Just a little background on that. So with that being said, our youth council actually proposed a bill, HB 6855, and they're looking to make sure that that substance becomes on the list of 21 plus products. Right now, a lot of the marketing is actually, it appears to be towards kids, which again is problematic. So again, thanks to STEPS for looking out for our youth and specifically our own youth and the Youth Council for advocating to keep members of our community safe. With that, I also want to thank Representative Poulos. He actually sponsored them up at Hartford, gave them a little tour as they were talking and learning a little bit more about this process, proposing this bill. There is a public hearing this Friday, beginning at 10 a.m., that anyone can testify over Zoom. However, if you're interested in registering to testify, you must register by Thursday by 3 p.m. in order to have your voice heard. Again, it could be via Zoom, but the hearing itself is Friday, February 14th, beginning at 10 a.m. So that's something to keep an eye out for. I also want to follow up. I've been in touch with Representative Martinez. I know she had sent an email to the full council specific to the governor's budget and how that impacts Southington. And I know there was some communication specific to the ECS funding. So talking to her, she's still trying to connect with people at the state level about ECS funding and how it was calculated for what will be allocated for Southington. However, she did assure me that in the 10-year projected plan from the governor, that, and I'm looking to the town manager, I know he can confirm this, that the amount that was projected be budgeted for Southington for this fiscal year is the correct amount that was included in the governor's budget. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It is a negative amount, but it is the budgeted amount.
Even better. Okay. And yes, there is a change from last year, but again, she's looking into why that is. But regardless, it was what was projected in the governor's 10-year plan. So it really shouldn't be a surprise for what's in the budget. And finally, the last thing is another opportunity. There's a public hearing in Hartford this Thursday from 5 to 7 or via Zoom. And this is, the governor and the General Assembly are looking to possibly reduce excess spending in the town's education budget. So again, it kind of relates to the previous discussion. But specifically, one of the proposals is to try to return money back to districts for housing programs, special education in their hometown. So looking to try to return some of that funds. So the public hearing is all encompassing for special ed, but there really could be an impact to our Southington education budget. So again, that public hearing is this Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. in Hartford, or you can also register to testify via Zoom. That could be found, if you're interested, on the Connecticut General Assembly website and the Special Ed Subcommittee. I'd also like to give a shout out to our superintendent, Steve Mananci, for testifying and being a big part of proposals moving forward.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else? Okay, I had a couple items just for clarification. Chris, on your last comment, I was the one who had asked Representative Martinez about the questions for the funding. It wasn't pertaining to this budget. It was pertaining for next year's budget. So the one that's going to come before us in another month or two, the projection for Southington is, I can't remember, down, is minus 300 or minus 350. So almost 300 to 350. I can't remember off the top of my head. That was the issue that we're talking about, is that the budget that's before us, the Board of Education, is under strain because the funding has been cut to our local Board of Education by that amount. So that was my question.
Right, but just to confirm, so isn't that the amount that was pre-planned ahead in the governor's 10-year projection for Southington for next year?
That's correct.
So my point, Paul, is that shouldn't be a surprise.
No, I didn't say it was a surprise. I was just saying that the funding that we received this year from the state
Is down from last year.
the funding that's going to be in the 2025 to 2026 budget for Southington. We are going to reduce our projection. We're going to reduce the amount that we're going to be getting from the state, which means that 300 to 350,000 is going to fall on the taxpayer's burden to fund.
Correct, but you also said that's a burden on the Board of Ed. Wasn't that amount?
No, yeah, I'm sorry. So just to clarify my point, what I'm saying is the Board of Education budget for 2025-26 has 300 to 350,000 less revenue from the state than this current budget that we're in. So I'm saying that the Board of Ed budget is strained because the proposal is strained more to the taxpayers of Southington because we're getting less from the state of
All
Connecticut.
right, so
That's
if I can ask the manager to follow up then. So my understanding was, in talking to Representative Martinez, that the governor gave us the number for next year ahead of time in a 10-year projection. So my point is, it shouldn't have been budgeted that much less because we were already told in advance what the amount would be from the state budget. Is that correct?
It's correct.
That's
You know,
correct.
And the year after that is negative as well, and the year after that is negative as well. So every year, the Board of Ed is going to start at the revenue is going to be coming down and down and down.
Right.
So they
That's
have
my
to plan
comment, Chris.
for it.
My comment is not that it's a surprise. My comment is the state of Connecticut budget, the ECS funding, is going to continue to get less and less and less to the town of Southington and push more of the burden to the Southington taxpayers. That's what, that was my point.
Right, so that's why I made my second point in that testimony with special ed is a possible source of savings because we do house many programs that we could ship students out of Southington to a specialized program in other districts. And because we're keeping many of those programs in Southington, we're looking to increase the amount of reimbursement back to Southington.
Of
which
course,
would-
right.
which
We've
Southington-
hired a bunch of new staff over the last 1 to 2 years. So we've hired people into the Board of Education to do exactly what you're saying, correct?
Correct, but some of those staff have been with us for years, so some of the programs.
That's correct. Yeah. There's, I could show you the chart. There's, if you would like, I think I sent it to you, but if not, I can give it to you. We've been planning for this for sure. So if you recall the last budget cycle, we talked about this during the last budget cycle in that there was going to be a reduction, there's going to be further strain. And I think there was a request during the last budget cycle to hire 8 or 9 new staff members from the Board of Education. So yes, agree, it's planned. It's just going to continue to be something that we as a community are going to have to shoulder as far as costs. Of course, our Board of Education is going to find, continue to look for cost savings. And it's not just the Board of Education. There is a portion that's also town government that we're losing funding on as well from the state in this next budget cycle. Okay, so continuing on, I wanted to give a great shout out to the police department for putting on a great ball, the policeman's ball that was attended by Jen, Mike, Jim, and myself. Anybody else attend? I don't think so. Okay, so the four of us attended about a week ago, Saturday. Yeah, it was a nice event, very well attended. I don't know, maybe 400, 500 people there. It was a really high class event, and it was nice to see the camaraderie from all the people that were there. So shout out to the police department for putting on another great event. The firefighters were there as well, and that brings, I was going to give a shout out to Company One. I've given the council an update on the time that I've been spending with the fire department to understand some of the ins and the outs, the day-to-day operations, the movement of people, so that I can have a better appreciation for some of the issues that have been before the town with respect to the fire department that we've been hearing about. And just a shout out to Company One. They invited me to their department meeting this past Monday, so a week ago. And it was great to meet everybody formally and also have a nice exchange with Company One about some of the things that they see are going good and, some of the areas that they'd like to see worked on as well. I've passed that information along to the chair of the Fire Commission. I had speaking about the Board of Education, I think everybody has seen the Board of Ed had their, has passed along their budget. The Board of Education passed along unanimously a 6.6% increase, I believe it is, Mr. Town Manager? 6.6% increase to the Board of Finance, so I would encourage the town council members, if you can, to attend or watch the Board of Finance workshops, because there we tend to see some more discussions from some of the department heads about some of the needs from the town side, and then we'll see the Board of Finance debate the budget a little bit more before it comes to us in another month or so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Wednesday at 6:30 is the first one, the Board of Ed.
Say it again?
This Wednesday at 6:30.
Your mic?
Wednesday at 6:30, the Board of Ed will be presenting their budget formally to the Board of Finance.
Wednesday,
6:30 workshop.
6:30, Board of Finance. Perfect. Thank you. This evening, I had a wonderful opportunity just before the meeting to go to Live Well again and meet with a number of people there. They had another showing of Human Forever regarding a study that was done on various different societies around the world and how each society and each city handles some of the residents in the society and handles the dementia crisis that seems to be growing around the world, how they do things preventatively, but also how they handle, when people are identified with dementia. And we all remember the Dementia Positive workshop that we attended, and so this was a nice extension to see that. I wasn't able to make the other two viewings. More to come on that. I spoke with Heidi Gill, who's going to continue to work with our Commission for Persons with Disabilities to see what we can do in a public-private partnership there as well. So more to follow there, but just a really beautiful movie. If you have not had the opportunity to see it, I would highly encourage seeing Human Forever. And the last item, we have the department heads coming. I think most of them will go to the Board of Education workshop. The Board of Finance workshop, Mr. Town Manager. I'd like to also invite them, the department heads in the months ahead here. I'd like, one area of focus, because we've had the technology subcommittee. I'd like to start with inviting the technology, the new IT person to come out and tell us a little bit about some of the needs that we've seen with the technology subcommittee and some of the work that our IT department has done since coming on board. We have a great resource there that you announced previously. I think it would be great for the council to hear. And Jack, you brought up the recording. Maybe there's things that can be learned from the IT head there. I'd like to understand, what was the state of affairs when they came into the job? What was some of the learnings, some of the needs, and I know that there's a budget that they're going to be requesting next year. So it'd be good to hear a little bit about that as well and some of the risks. Okay. Excellent. Stay tuned. Okay, anything else on councilperson communications before we move on? Okay, why don't we move on to item 6, reports of special committees. Chris, SHS Roof Committee.
Sure, very brief meeting. We met officially Thursday, January 30th, and we're finalizing the project, as you know, for the roof at the high school. And talked specifically about the solar portion of the project, and we also signed requirement with the interconnection, the application with Eversource. So aside from that and approving invoices, it was a pretty standard meeting.
Excellent. Any questions on SHS Roof Committee? Chris, can you give us an idea, when will we see that roof committee finalize? Will we see a sunset on that committee at some point?
Yeah, it's again, the project itself is pretty much done. Right now, we're working on the solar portion of it. So, and that probably by this summer.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. Item B, Mr. Morrison, Transportation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few things. We've done a survey of all transport capabilities in town, and I presented that maybe 1 or 2 meetings ago. It kind of surprised all members of our committees with the amount of transportation services that we do have in town to satisfy our residents. So we thought it'd be a service to the community to develop an overall inventory of these services and then to develop online or other access to them to both market them and also provide information to the various constituencies, particularly those that use these services or are potential customers for these services. Second thing, the town is pursuing a grant to buy a minivan for the Calendar House bus service. This service is by far the most popular one in town, judging by ridership. And the minivan will be a wonderful addition because it's a more flexible option than the buses. It only needs a regular license to drive, and you can still store a wheelchair in the back. We applied last year for a grant, weren't successful. This grant should be, if we get it, we'll know probably in a month or so. If we don't get it, we'll probably make a proposal to the town to purchase it's $75,000, but to purchase it out of reallocation money or reserves, in other words, money that we've already got in hand as a one-time capital expense. And we did have another expense in mind, software to pioneer microtransit capabilities in town. We've pulled back on that due to, well, what we talked about just a couple of minutes ago, about the budget. We all know it's going to be a very tough budget, and there's no way we feel like, adding new services at this time. As far as the bus goes, we're going to have a representative from the state at the next meeting to talk about that, and we'll obviously bring up the situation with the bus stopping wherever it pleases. That's it.
Okay, any questions on transportation? Hearing none, moving on to item C, Councilman Del Santo, Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had our meeting last Wednesday, the 5th, here in this room. Chief Daly mentioned that the police department received a grant for a new variable message board trailer. The things we see on the side of the road, if there's detours. So we'll be coming into contact with that soon. We'll use it on road projects or if any events in town. So that was a nice little grant that was received for the police station. Mr. LaPre mentioned that there's a new requirement for lithium batteries that are dropped off at the transfer station. I guess now the ends have to be taped. So more to follow on that, but there's a special place where you have to put batteries when you bring them to the transfer station. So town staff will be, letting residents know on how to exactly tape it. Maybe they could hang something to show folks how to do it. So in the future, when they come, they make sure that they're taped. I'm unsure how taping them is going to make it safer, but that's a new requirement that's been just put onto the transfer station. Plowing update, we had, at the time of the meeting, our 11th storm. This past Saturday was our 12th storm. And last year at this time, we had 6. So we have something possibly tomorrow night. We have something possibly Wednesday night into Thursday, and maybe 2 other events this weekend. So I guess we got to open up our wallet for more salt and more sand and, more overtime.
There's a shortage of salt right now, stuff to get.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get salt, but it is what it is. Val nailed it earlier. Everyone's been doing a great job. They've been coming in at 2 o'clock in the morning, working, all day, sleeping on cots while they have to come off the road for required time off. So the roads have been great. There was a nice compliment, actually, that we received, that mailboxes are being spared this year, which is wonderful. So the guys operating the plows are doing a great job. So thank all of them for that. With regards to Placeville safety improvements, the bollard skirts, the little parts that go on the bottom of the lighting downtown Plantsville, being shipped out on the 21st of February. So as soon as we get them, as long as the weather is okay, we'll go out and put those on. I know that's created a lot of questions. The road list was discussed. We had a presentation put on by David Norse. It was an excellent presentation that went through the roads that were selected for this year. And although that road list is put in place, it is not carved in stone. There were a lot of folks in the audience that came out and expressed some displeasure about other roads in town. So I had explained to Mr. Norris and Mr. Rapone and Mr. LaPre to keep a list of those roads, and as we've been doing all along, get boots on the ground, go out, walk the roads. We received another email about another road that's in some pretty bad shape a couple of days ago. So we're going to look at all of those within the next 30 days. Folks could come out to the Public Works meeting the first Wednesday in March to talk about any other roads that they feel as though may be appropriate to be done this year. And those meetings are always open to the public. I know Mr. Perry had expressed some displeasure at the meeting about the list not being up on the website. So it is up there now. The list is there. We will extend it out till at least after our first town council meeting in March to give folks plenty of time to either come to Public Works or send an email or discuss it with us if they think that their road kind of missed the boat this year and needs to be added to the list. We'll certainly go out and take a look at it, and not making any promises, but the roads that were designated for this year were the worst in town. And if any roads that folks think may also fit into that category, they should reach out to us. That's pretty much all I had. Jack, I don't know if you wanted to give anything further.
I just wanted to talk about the road list, the preliminary list. I had some residents reach out from Russell Road as well. I went and walked that road and explained the list being preliminary. I want to kind of go over the timeline of all that. So we got the list, I think it was January 30th. The goal was by February 1st that it would be to the public. And, it says, this was on our town's website, and we discussed this as a council when it went for referendum for $15 million. It says, this list will be publicly provided as a draft to the Public Works Committee by February 1st, 2025, comma, viewable by the public, comma, and a 30-day period for public comment will be allowed before finalizing on March 1st. So I obviously had the list. I don't hide anything. I'll give whatever I have. It was emailed to us, and I emphasized that it was preliminary. Other residents reached out, and they couldn't find it on the town's website either. And at that point in time, I sent the town manager and the town clerk an email Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon asking for this to be put on the town's website because we owe it to the voters that, we told them that we'd put, this is a $15 million item. And we told them that this is what we're going to do. Here it is, February 3rd, not the end of the world, still not on the town's website though. So Monday morning, I get everybody's always busy. It's Monday. I send an email, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, got no reply again. Tuesday morning, same thing. I then finally get an email back saying that, it's got to go to Public Works and all that. And then I cited what was on the town's website. Then it was brought to my attention that what was on the town's website for the questions and answers was removed. And at that point in time, this list was still not public. And if it's, we're elected by the people. We're here to do a job. And I don't know why this list was hidden, because that's how I feel it was done, is it was hidden. And when I brought it to everybody's attention, I was kind of ignored for 2 days. And, it's frustrating that residents keep reaching out going, what's going on? Got no answer. Nobody wants to talk to me and reply to me. That's a problem, Mr. Chair. That the town manager cannot reply. And I get everybody's busy, but I got constituents reaching out. And how does that look that I'm telling them that I'm being ignored and I'm on the council? So how do you think their voices are heard? They're not. If my voice isn't heard, how's their voice being heard? Elected by thousands of people to represent them, and I can't represent them, and that's frustrating. So getting back to Russell Road, it scored a 43. I don't know what, the mechanism we're going to use for public input. Obviously, I think, the department going out there looking at it, I think is important. Russell Road is so bad that the catch basins are recessed, the front lawns are growing into the road. So when they go and plow the road, there's catch basins that are about 3 feet from the road now because the road has deteriorated. And it's the fact of some of the trees that were put there by the town, I guess, many years ago is kind of rooted in everything. And I see on the list that it's going to be a 2-inch, it qualifies for a 2-inch mill and overlay. I don't know who came up with that. That road's almost like a reconstruction. You have to take out trees or reset the catch basins. It's a mess. And I think, again, we need to have a game plan on how to address roads like this. I hope that road's not being ignored because of how costly it is. Because moving catch basins or removing trees, redoing sidewalks becomes very expensive. But I can tell you, based on my experience, a 2-inch mill and overlay is not a way of doing that road. And once you have a drainage issue, we live in Northeast. We see the ice thaw, freeze thaw. That road's just going to continue to deteriorate. And I think the only reason it's a 43 is Eversource went on the other side and did some gas work. So they have one lane that is newer, but then they have the other side that it's literally deteriorated. So that's why I'm frustrated, because you have residents reaching out and the list should have been put public. So I hope that this doesn't happen again, that if we tell our constituents we're going to do something, I hope we do it.
Thank you, Jack. To Mr. Town Manager, do you want to talk at all about the publication of the roads? or no?
Just briefly, I don't want to debate what the referendum page said. I'll just say that it said it'd be publicly posted to the Public Works Committee, which it was 2 or 3 days early. And then it was posted immediately after the Public Works meeting, just as if your town council packets, they are published to you, and then they are, once they're there, they're public. And then as far as, I was going to talk about it in my report, but now's a great time for Mr. Chairman and Mr. Perry both brought parts of it up. Mr. Gugliotti is our new IT manager. He started about 6 weeks ago. One of the things that he was tasked with a few weeks ago was he came to my office and talked about the website. He said it's horrid, and I think the website's a beautiful website. I think it's beautiful. I love it, but it is very circular. It's very difficult. The superintendent asked me to find the financial provisions of our debt service last week. I had to use Google because I couldn't find it. It was buried in a subpage of a subpage of a subpage under a department subpage. So we had a meeting a week or 2 weeks ago. He and I kind of put out an edict to all the department heads, please go in there, clean up at least the bare minimum, clean up your webpage. We had stuff from there 5, 6, 7 years old. My webpage had things that were 3, 4 years old. So we did clean it up. Timing was not good, obviously. But to Mr. Perry's point, there should be a mechanism where we can historically keep a repository of like a 2019 bond or that we took down from 6 years ago. So we're gonna put on for the time being, we're gonna try to put archive pages on each department page, where we can dump all of that old stuff in there for the time being until we figure out a better solution to kind of organize it going forward. Because we do want to preserve it for the public record, but we don't want to have 8-year-old stuff that's sitting there making it difficult for the folks to actually, I can't find stuff, the folks aren't gonna be able to find stuff, so that's it.
Okay. I'll just, if I can add to that and comment, Jack, I might have also contributed a little bit to that. When I had spoken to the town manager the same day that the list came out to the Public Works Committee, and I had also asked the town manager, like you did, I said, hey, I'd like to get this up on the website. Can we have it posted? And I had told him that I was on the website. At the time, I had also said to the town manager, hey, I've gone through the website looking for this, and I noticed that there's some old stuff on the website as well. And I said, can you ask the department heads? And he had explained that the department heads were already all over it and that they were beginning to look at, taking the old stuff out. And if we do end up going through, Mr. Town Manager, any type of revamp of or reorganization, before it's done, I would just ask that maybe we put it out to a bunch of people who use the website, all the boards, and just seek maybe some comment about what works, what doesn't, when. I'm not saying we're going to do it right now, but if there comes a time where we're going to revitalize or revamp the website, let's collect some input from the
We're on it
users.
Right now. Yep,
Okay.
we're revamping it right now.
It
So-
might be good if you could create an email address that we could send feedback to.
Perfect.
Hey, I don't like the way this works, or I like the way this works. Don't lose this. And maybe if we can have that in the meeting minutes and sent to the town council and all the other boards, let people know, because I would suspect that all the boards and commissions use the website quite regularly, just like some of the residents. And we probably have some experience about what works good and what doesn't that might be beneficial. And again, Jack, on the town manager at the time that I requested to put it up also said, that he had reviewed the referendum language. Our commitment was to get this out February 1st to the Public Works Committee. I understand, your perspective in the reading of it as being available to the public at the same time. At the time that it went out, and at the time the town manager and I had spoke, I had agreed to, when I had requested it go up, I also had said, okay, fine, if your interpretation is Public Works, then, so be it. And I think just to close the loop on your request as well, Jack, 30 days was what we committed for a public input session, and I think you all agreed at your last Public Works meeting as well to extend the deadline, right? So instead of it being March 1st for public comment, because we were a few days late, maybe this goes to the second week or something like that of March to ensure that we have the full 30 days. And, you know, if it takes a little bit of time to go through it, then it takes a little time to go through it, and we'll get it right. So, you know, if you have that in the future where you're having, you know, some anxiety about that type of stuff on the site, give me a call, or, you know, you're on the Public Works Committee, call Mike or something as a chair, beat it around a little bit, and if we all feel we have to strong arm and have it put up on the website, then we'll do that. So,
And I could tell you in executive session why Mr. Perry wasn't responded to, but I won't tell you publicly, but he'll know later.
okay. So, well, thanks,
So-
Jack, for bringing it
Yeah,
up.
so, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to, you know, submit this to be included in our minutes of what was published, because it's obviously not there, but it says viewable by the public by February 1st. So
Send it down.
at the end of the day, I did cite that to the town manager, and
Fair.
at that point, in my opinion, it was not debatable at that anymore, because we've already debated it and discussed it on the council, and if he felt that it wasn't the intent, then maybe he should have looked at the video footage from that meeting that we discussed it as a council.
That's fair, Jack. Yep. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
So it's,
may I make a comment?
Chair.
Sure. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. As a committee member, Jack, with you, in December, we discussed that we were going to generate this list and that we were going to look at 4 different proposals for ways that we could use this money, different methods of coverage on roads. At that time, we had a new manager in place, and I worked directly with them, engineering and public works staff. I did some actual visits on roads. It was then when we discovered that some of the street scan information wasn't really accurate, and we determined that it would probably be best to go and physically drive every single road and take a look at it. Again, because there were ways that you could get more mileage for less money and vice versa, I was under the impression that this list was going to go to the Public Works Committee for discussion, so that we could decide if we wanted to have more completely rebuilt roads or less built roads or just rubber seal roads. And each one of those options gives you different lengths and different amounts of roads that could be fixed. We took a lot of heat in the fall last year for publishing the list that we didn't follow. And so I was really hopeful that we would be able to bash that around as a committee, listen to public comment, and then decide what we thought the best combination of the 4 would be, and then publish the list. We all agreed that this list is still not in stone because the weather could ruin roads that are okay now. And so when it comes time in June, July to start paving, we may not exactly do everything on the list. And so we wanted to minimize that as much as possible. So I understand everybody's concerns. I think you're right, Jack, that we did say it would be up the 1st. I don't think it makes a difference whether it's the week after. I think the intent there was to really scrub this thing, look at the methods that we had available to us, and we don't have 15 million this year. It's a 4-year. So we have $3 million to fix roads, and we wanted to look at the way we could use that $3 million the best way possible.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, Val.
I'm sorry, just as for the residents that are listening or that will listen, so as of right now, they can see, the list is there, and if their road is not on the list, but they believe that maybe they have some work is necessary for their road, they should come
Public
for
Works, they
public.
can contact us, we can
Contact
get
you.
it to Mr. LaPre and Mr. Grappone and Mr. Norris, and they'll look at it, they'll go out and look at it.
Okay.
And they have no problem calling residents to say, hey, this one doesn't make the list because
Mm-hmm.
of A, B, C, or D.
Okay, so either the next Public Works meeting or directly contact.
Anytime.
Okay.
Anytime.
I just
And
think
the
that's
commitment-
important so people know that.
The commitment is as they come in, the feedback comes in, the same people from Public Works who went out and did the validation of the street scan, because, you know, the vice chair had mentioned that the street scan is slightly skewed in some areas, and it's 2+ years old. The same people will then go out and relook at any road that somebody says, hey, this one's really bad, and then make a judgment as to whether that road is better or worse than the lowest road that's on the list for this year, you know, that type
Okay.
of a thing.
Okay,
I also asked them to keep a tally year over year of the roads that were there today, and we pushed them back, so that next year we don't forget that that road got pushed back.
Right.
So I don't think we did that in the past. And so again, I think just a more accurate accounting year over year. And this is obviously a multi-year plan, so
right.
they, you know, the ones that aren't gonna go this year will go next year, and if for some reason it gets bumped, it should have priority next year.
Right, that's right. Okay.
And then the other thing that was brought up at the meeting, I had just requested, when we first started working with StreetScan was, one of the only vendors out there. Now there's more vendors. So I do believe as we get through this, this first look at the new list, once it gets finalized and once once the snow starts to subside, we start to look at the other vendors. Who else is out there, and get some reviews, and, Public Works can look at, is StreetScan the right vendor to stay with for the next round or not? Okay.
Thank you.
Tony?
Just a quick question from Councillor Morelli or Councillor Santa. Councillor Perry said the list was deliberately hidden. Is that how you would phrase it? Of course not. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Jack.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I think it's important to also, we look at, last year, right, and what transpired, why we didn't maybe get some of the streets done. Mr. Town Manager, I think you could explain, what happened at Hart Street and how we used some of the monies that we had for paving towards Hart Street. That was, in my opinion, not what voters, when, the last referendum, they wanted to see roads improved. We had a drainage issue there. The road failed. I pled to close the whole road down because at the time when I met with Shota and the department head at the time, it was projected that the police bill was going to be $80,000. If I remember correctly, I think it came in at $130,000. So I look at that as, I brought it up to the council and it went on deaf ears. And like Councilman Morrison could say is, deliberately this, that. I bring things to your attention, and you guys have the opportunity. I'm one of 9. I can't just do this all on my own, but I bring it to your attention, because it's a concern. So now, last year, we didn't get roads done, right? We could admit. And I think Hart Street, don't quote me on this, I think it was $400,000, somewhere around there.
A little less, but close.
Yeah. So again, if we looked at things and there was a pipe issue there, and Mr. Chair, you said we're not going to go back in time, but again, I bring these smoking guns and nothing is done, and then we look, oh, how do we end up here? It's the council is how we've ended up here. And Mr. Chair, you stated, well, the department head is no longer here. I find it a failure of this council that we do not fix these issues, and you can't blame somebody underneath you when they report to the town manager, which the town manager reports to us. We failed the community at that point in time. So it's however you guys want to look at it, the narratives and all that. And then lastly, one thing I will, and I think everybody on this council will agree with me on, or the majority, is on the last page of the preliminary list, it says rubberized chip seal. I'm totally against that. Residents, do not like chip seal. So I know it's one little area in town, but I would not be in favor of that just because the whole chip seal ordeal, and I think it was at 2016-ish, that residents showed up with bags of chip seal at the council meetings.
Thank you. And I would encourage you all of you on the Public Works Committee, you all are empowered. You're empowered. You all make decisions on public works stuff regularly. So, if you think that there's an issue that needs a little bit more agility, call an emergency meeting. Get together, talk to each other, and address some of the issues. Make a full court press on some of these issues if you think that needs to be done. Go ahead, Mike.
Just to close it out.
Thank you.
And I appreciate Mr. Perry's plight. It's not that it fell on deaf ears. We don't have the authority to close roads as town councilors. The chief of police is the ultimate authority for traffic in Southington. He's not going to close a major thoroughfare like Hart Street so we can repair it. He made that decision. That's it. He's the ultimate authority, which we cannot trump. We can't do it. As a town councilor, we can't. Even the 9 of us, we said, no, we want to close the road. He is the ultimate authority on who closes roads in Southington. Period. End. So I'm sorry if you felt as though it felt on deaf ears.
It comes out of his budget then, if he feels it's unsafe. And I remember talking about it at the Public Works meeting, and it was all safety and all that. There's ways to safely close roads. Let's, call it what it is. And
Jack, you're overstepping your authority. I know you've got a lot of history with your DMV inspections on trucks, but you have no authority to close a road.
Okay.
And no one at this dais does.
It's our
Can we wrap it now,
responsibility,
guys?
though.
Thank you.
When we don't finish a road because of something else.
Thanks.
Right, we
Thanks,
go to the
guys.
police chief, we say, we'd like to close this road. He says, you're nuts, we're not closing this road, 'cause it's the main
Mike.
thoroughfare in town.
Thank you.
I don't think he put it in writing anywhere,
Thanks.
Mr. Del Santo.
Don't, I got the gavel here. I got the gavel. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Good spirited debate. I know, you know, we continue to march in the right direction. Thanks, everybody, for the comments. Okay, number D, Library Building Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As most people have seen, the old library is down. The demolition is not quite complete. We're still in the process of removing concrete from the hole, and then that will be replaced with new material, dirt, sand, et cetera. There is some construction work that has to happen in that corner. There's some drainage that has to get put in. There's some footings that have to be installed for the corner. And then there will be some landscaping and other work done there in the next few months. It looks like we should be completed with that by the end of April as per the schedule. Secondly, I'm happy to say that the latest budget scrub shows that we're still on target for our budget. We don't have an exact figure because Whiting Turner does the analysis of the money. They know what they appropriated, and the bills came in, and the town pays the bills, so we haven't been able to correlate all the expenses, but it looks like we're gonna come in at least on budget, possibly slightly under budget. That's it for the library.
Any questions on Library Building Committee? That one was easier than Public Works. Okay. Item 7, Town Manager's Report and Communications.
Do you have an open space, or is that
I don't have an open space.
canceled?
It was canceled.
Excellent. All right, I will try to be brief, because I know we're going pretty long. We've got a lot left. Just to reiterate, a couple things we already talked about. Rex Forge closing down today through the 25th. We don't know the timing. We've attempted to get in contact with leadership to discuss what their plans are. The only place we were able to get was to the HR department. The HR department assured us they would give my contact information and Jenna Mellon's contact information to all the local employees in case they had anything that they needed, we can help them with. I don't want to sugarcoat it. We're not set up for a transitional sort of assistance program, but if they need help with something like community services, or if they have questions about deferments or taxes, whatever happens in town, we're happy to help walk them through it. We haven't heard back yet at all.
And maybe we can also, Mr. Town Manager, on that, if we get requisitions, or maybe we can proactively reach out to Barbara Coleman at the Chamber. You know, obviously, the Chamber has a network of organizations that are hiring all the time. I think it would be good if we reached out to the Chamber and asked Barbara to reach out directly to Rex Forge, the contact there, and see if we can connect them as well.
Absolutely. We did have one really big win for February 2025, and that our new finance director was able to get us up and running with paychecks. We ran our first payroll last week. I'm happy to report the only payroll that was messed up was mine, out of 300 and something employees, so I was okay with that, with those statistics. I kind of laughed, and I told my finance director, well, is everybody screwed up or just mine? She's like, no, just yours. I said, okay, excellent. But it went well. The employees to be candid, there was a lot of hesitation. People were really worried. I got calls. Are you going to screw up my payroll? Am I getting paid? How is this going to work? I went to the police department for a meeting Friday. I had cops walking up and down the aisles, picking up their phone, showing me, look at this app. I can see how much money the government's taking. This is terrible. And they're looking, but they like seeing the information. It's at their hands, and it's easy. We haven't implemented the time and attendance portion of it yet. We still did it the old-fashioned way, just running it through their banks. We should be up and running by the end of this month. The time clocks are in. All the employees have their logins. They all think it's really neat the way they can log in and see everything that's going on with their pay and their attendance. They love being able to see their vacation, their sick time. It's all at a glance, and it's on the app. So thanks to the Town Council Technology Subcommittee, who kind of shepherded this payroll implementation. So it is up and running.
Any questions on
Yeah,
that?
just a quick, how much money is it going to save us, Alex?
It's costing us about $65,000 a year to pay checks. It's going to save us about 7 departments, 2 days per pay cycle. That's 14 days a pay period. So it's about 365 days of labor
Right.
overall. So it's a significant efficiency savings as well.
Not a bad return.
No, not bad at all. And honestly, it's a much better product. The employees they're delighted.
Alex, how did we pay employees before instead of, digitally on an app? What was the,
We took paper timesheets and we put those into paper Excel worksheets, and those were sent over to the finance department, and those were hand typed in to a online portal. So there were 3 different accountings that were done. So this is just a one-time, people type their punch in, punch out, and it takes care of
Doesn't-
everything.
maybe after the IT director, we can invite the finance person to come give us an update as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Can I just make one comment? I feel like it's necessary because I feel like more of this is needed. And you can think, I'm happy to take thanks in the technology committee, but this is you and your staff. Things do not get implemented and rolled out successfully if it's not for your hard work and the town staff's hard work, and that needs to be recognized.
It's the staff's work. All I did was listen to them come crying every day about how hard it is. So I'll give Chrissy Morano and the finance department all the credit on that one.
Sorry, they withheld your check.
And I said this to Alex, for those who don't know, it was Alex's birthday last week. I wished him a happy birthday, and I also told him what a great job he was doing, Jen, as well, because it's finance, it's IT, it's building, it's planning, it's all of your new department heads that you have going on, the public works, you're building your team, Alex, and we want to thank you for, taking a look. I know you're only 8 months into the job, taking a look at, what we can do to be better, more efficient, and, each month we're hearing more and more. And before the end of your report, if you have any updates on how we're doing with the building permits, we'd love to hear that as well.
We are doing much better on the timeline of the building permits. I recently promoted Mr. David Riccio, no relation to Mr. Riccio who's in the room, he's from Waterford, to our director of building. He's a department head level now. He's doing a fantastic job. We plan to be within 30 days of everything. A lot of good feedback from folks. I made a couple calls to some of the local home remodelers and builders last week. Nothing but positive feedback. Not all perfect, but positive. And 6 months ago, I was getting 5 to 6 phone calls a day regarding issues in that department, and I haven't gotten one. And I received an email yesterday for the first time in over 2 weeks. So we're doing really well. That's a testament to all those folks really busting their butt there and working a lot of overtime and really trying to clean things up.
I also received the positive feedback from the building department on Friday. I received a phone call that I passed along to you, and hopefully it's okay, but I think they said that Erica in the building department was a great pleasure to work with. They called in on an issue, and they called me just to tell me that it was a great experience, because they had heard some other things out on social media and things. They wanted to let me know that they had a great experience. So thank you.
I'm going to try to go through the rest of them pretty quickly. The first one is 295 Landing Street and 1316 West Street sewer swap. Mr. Maccarello, Mr. Bovino are here to present some quick background on this issue. Mr. Maccarello asked and spearheaded this, a change to our ordinance last year. And they followed the letter of the law. They went through the engineering department, the zoning department. They worked with town staff to agree to all of the technical data, and then they went to the sewer committee, and the sewer committee unanimously voted in favor of the proposal that's in front of you. I'm happy to ask any questions. There's a lot of history on this. There was some litigation. There's stuff in your packet explaining some of the rationale that town has argued for in the past regarding what the town asked the applicant to do. And the applicant is here and willing, from what I'm told, to do that now. So
Sure, come on
I'll
up.
ask Mr. Maccarello and Mr. Bovino to
come on up.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, council members, town staff. Brian Macarello, 200 Executive Boulevard, Southington, Connecticut, here on behalf of Banyo LLC. Banyo LLC is the owner of the property located at 295 Landing Street. If you're familiar, it's pretty much across from the old Brannigan's. It butts up against 84, it butts up against the back nine of Hawks Landing and Doral Lane to some length. Seb Vino's here with me tonight. I wish Mr. Frank Frigola could be here tonight. He's under the weather, but I think he's watching, so we got to do a good job for him. I first want to thank Mr. Richard Doan and Mr. Grappone, who's not here tonight, because this is the first application under the newly adopted sewer, the non-exclusion. So what we're doing is taking bringing sewer, making the connection, Seb can explain the engineering part, connecting it from this property for the project. I think it's important because there was a lot of planning and zoning meetings. There were quite a few sewer committee meetings prior to the last one. We just got unanimous approval. And every resident, and I could not agree with them more, they did not want septics. And we could not get septic only because of the sewer service area, and this was in the exclusion. The health department codes, and if you have questions about that, Seth can speak, say that you have to, actually, this is the ordinance right before the newly enacted one, which says if there's sewer available and feasible, you have to connect, or you cannot get a building permit, which didn't make any sense to me, because literally it's from here to that whiteboard where we saw the manhole cover. So I think the ordinance is good for the town. This is not only unique to this property, it affects other properties, so we want to get it right. I think that the Town Ordinance Committee, Subcommittee did a great job with that. Alex, we still have a little bit to do just on the negative declaration, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. We have a project on 295 Landing Street. It's a 30-unit, 55 and older community with state affordable component to it. So 30% of those 9 units are going to be true affordable. There's really nothing in town that's a true affordable based on those calculations. The other unique part about this property is, if it's approved, it's going to be, and I call it affectionately the snowbird. So 6 months here, 6 months in Florida. This butts up against Hawks Landing. We've had great relationships with Hawks. We're gonna make a connection. So, for instance, the golf season is 4 or 5 months. The residents would have an option to pay a fee. You pay to use the golf course. You pay for the pro shop. You pay for the restaurant, the bar. You access it from, there's an access point, and I can't remember if it's the 13th hole or 12th hole. And the carts are going to be modified. So, and then there's a time frame to use those carts. But you use your money or you lose it. So what the idea was is creating this partnership with Hawks Landing, because obviously you bought the development rights and you want that community to be active. So it's going to allow these residents to become kind of pseudo members, if you will, for the golf time. Real quick about the applicants. So Frank and Mary Frigola own the property. They bought it in 2007. I think tonight, and the shameless plug, they own FF Screw Products and Frigola Performance, but also FK Bearings, and they're hiring. So anyone from Rex Ford, 860-621-4567, you can call. I mean, they're growing. Of course, there's some 50 plus, maybe 60-year employees that are finding their way to retirement. So they're growing. It's a great family business. You have 3 kids in the family, Al, Debbie, and Maria, and then there's grandkids. So it's a wonderful family business. They donate a lot. They're proud residents of Southington, Unico, Bread for Life. They actually they donated some money to unearth the Walkley, is it a fountain? Is that what Christine was speaking about, the same one?
She's speaking about the Yeoman's Fountain.
Oh, the other one, okay. So, and then they also donated their building, one of their buildings for 4 years to the robotics team. So that was great. We're here tonight to answer any questions We're without a map because we weren't sure if, I think that you,
Seth Bovino, planner with Cratchit Jones, representing the applicant. I have the information on the flash drive, but there's no laptop. If you want, I could go get a hard copy in my car, and you can see the map if you want. But basically, it's 11.5 acres. It's going to be 30 units of single family, like Brian said. And the extension of the sewer is right from where the church is to the property line, which is about 350 feet. And the property pitches toward the highway.
Get
Just
right on
speak into
that
the mic. Thanks.
We don't want to miss a word.
Okay, Seth Bovino, planner with Cratchit Jones and Associates, represented the applicant. The property is 11 and a half acres, zone R80, pitches toward the highway. So generally, it should have been in the sewer shed, but wasn't. The extension of the sewer goes from the church to the property line, which is about 350 feet. The extension will be in the road, obviously.
this is a private community. It's a condominium, so the roads are private, not public. All the work is being paid for by the developer to bring the sewer line, so it's zero cost to the town. In fact, it's going to benefit the town. There's going to be 30 units. There's going to be paying some sewer bills. We mentioned at the sewer committee meeting. And it's going to be a great addition to the town.
And there's other properties on the street they could connect if they wanted to.
If you can just clarify, can you talk about how many units or bedrooms are coming out of the sewer exclusion zone and how many are going to be put into the sewer exclusion zone, just for the record?
Exactly. So there's going to be 60 bedrooms. So the multiplier is 1.2. So there's 72 bedrooms that, and again, I think failed to mention, 1316 is Bonyo Farms LLC, owned by the Fregolas as well. So that property is right behind the Store Club. It's 30-plus acres, so it falls within the HOD, the town's version of affordable housing. So it's that property that, if it gets developed, is going to be a declaration, it's going to run with the land. 72 bedrooms cannot be built in that, on that property. We've submitted the plans for what could be built under the current regulations, and Jim Capone looked at it and verified, I think Attorney Riccadone as well. So we're taking 60 bedrooms, or building 60 bedrooms now in the sewer exclusion zone, but we're doing the multiplier. We're not going to be building in the future, and if he sold the property, no one else could, because it's going to run with the land, 72 bedrooms. So.
And just, if I may, Mr. Chairman, that is off of, those numbers are all calculated off the current zoning regulations. So the easements on the land records will be for what is as of right for our town, not for what could go on if it was under a state statute. So those numbers will be capped based upon, is it the HUD?
Yes.
HOD. So it'll be based off of that, and that'll be a maximum number of bedrooms.
For that parcel.
run with the land.
Understood. Val, please.
Just a couple quick questions. So just following up on that, Alex, so that's going to be recorded on the deed,
I'll let.
the 72?
Yes, it'll be required to be recorded according to the statute, or according to the regulations.
Right. And have we, has there been final approval by DEEP, Connecticut DEEP? Do you know?
No, so the way this works is, the town council is the final authority here, and then it gets sent over. The applicant has to pay for the application to go to DEEP for the application from the state of Connecticut.
So my understanding on the ordinance is that we don't have authority until there's favorable recommendation obtained by sewer committee, town staff, and Connecticut DEEP.
I just, Attorney Matney just pointed that out to me, that's correct.
So do
So
we
it may be
have to,
premature.
So maybe,
is this going to be premature tonight?
premature.
so maybe the action then can be to refer it or something like that.
I
It has to
just
go to
I don't
DEEP.
want us to be in violation of the
Correct.
ordinance that we
Yep.
just,
Okay.
No, I agree with you, Counselor DiPaolo.
So then to the applicant, do you have anything from Deep on this yet?
No, so
Okay.
the order was to go to the sewer subcommittee, come here, and then DEEP. I mean, whether, I'm not sure if you're the second one or the third one. I'm new with that, so we were going to rely on Mr. Capone in helping us determine when to file, but we're here. with the application.
Mr. Chair, I got a question.
Please.
Now, if we hypothetically, and I guess maybe this is a question to the attorney, if we, grant it, with the stipulation of Deep's, approval, is that something we can do so they don't have to come back in front of us?
Let's ask the town attorney that. That's a good question.
It appears not. It says the town council does not have authority to review a proposal under this section until the approvals or favorable recommendation have been obtained. It says sewer committee, town staff, and Connecticut Deep. So I think it will have to go there and then come back.
Okay.
It's not an issue.
So let's go through the rest of the informational and questions, and then maybe we'll table the action
Just the.
at the
just
end, during the
actual
action. Yep.
approval, right.
If that's okay with the town attorney?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I have a
The assistant
comment
town
I have a comment, Mr. Chairman, if you don't
Please.
mind. And again, Sabino, Planner of Cratzer Jones. In a different situation, like a traffic situation in town, you have to receive town approval first before the state looks at it. So I'm wondering if this is the same, because they're gonna not act unless the town is willing to approve it.
They're
not gonna override the town.
The only issue is that the town's attorney has told us that the ordinance as written says deep approval first, and that we don't have the so maybe what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to ask the applicant to go back and reach out to Deep, maybe through and with the town manager's office, just to hear the feedback, and if they won't hear it before us, then we may have to do an ordinance revision.
Well, we may have, I was just going to say, we may have to revise the ordinance, because that may happen all the time then, right?
Well,
If Connecticut Deep needs
Prior approval.
prior approval, then this will always be a problem, the way the ordinance is written.
So then, to your point, is there a, it's our ordinance, right? We wrote the ordinance, our subcommittee wrote the
Well, the
ordinance, so
ordinance subcommittee, we could do there could be a revision.
can we waive our own, ordinance that we voted on with a supermajority vote? I don't think there's a mechanism in the,
There's nothing
In
in the
there, right?
ordinance, I think, that says we can waive, but I'm wondering, in the charter, is there something?
it says, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, which I'm not sure we're gonna get answered tonight.
No.
I do have one other question, because it also mentions town staff. So it goes sewer committee, town staff, Deep. So I don't want to assume town staff is favorably recommending it. Mr. Capone's not, oh, they are?
I've got a letter in the packet from Mr. Capone.
Okay, thank you.
So Deep's the only outstanding one. So for the applicant, you're okay waiting a couple
well-
weeks? Let's get the feedback from Deep, and then
Yeah.
we'll decide what
And maybe give them the letter
yeah,
from
the town staff.
just to kind of set, so that they got something.
That sounds good. Thanks, Jerry.
Very good.
Who else has questions on this?
No, just happy to hear that there's some affordable aspect to this development. It's good to hear.
That's right. Well, thank you. Anybody else have questions for the applicant? Okay, so we'll see you in a couple weeks,
Oh, you
or
wanted to
depending
hear
on what the
some
feedback
about
is from
the
Deep.
Did you want to hear some about the affordable? Did you
Yeah,
have a
just
question?
happy that, that there's going to be an aspect of that on this project.
I thought you had a question.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, moving on to item B, Mr. Town Manager, 22 Main Street, sale options and broker selection.
So as everybody knows, the town purchased 22 Main Street, formerly known as Bank of America, late in 2024. There's been a lot of questions from my office, to my office, on what should we do, what are we doing, what are we selling, and how are we selling it. In front of you tonight, we've got several different options of what you can sell. And it's outlined from the engineering department, Mr. Norris and Mr. LaValle. So the big issue is zoning-wise, what can be done in the central business zone without a variance? So you have in the packet several different options or what are available to you. You've got a original, and you've got a called a light blue option called option 1, called a dark blue option 2, and you've got a yellow option 3. I'll let the council discuss that in the action part of the meeting, what they want to do. The only thing I will say is one part of it, I believe it's the last option, preserves indefinitely some access for the businesses to the north Attorney Martacho said he's very confident that any easement that he can draft for the parking, we're going to ask that the buyer, there's an easement on the land records where all the parking stays for the town, but he's very confident that an easement would be able to be bulletproof where the new owner could never take away that access to the adjoining businesses. But the yellow one does preserve that property to the town in fee indefinitely. The second part of it is something that has come up a few times.
Alex, can I make a comment on that just really quickly before we go to the second part? So just so it's clear for everybody, the two blue options in the packet, part of the reason why the yellow option was put together, and all three of these have been reviewed by the planning department, and they meet the zoning requirements, so we can go with any one of these options. But the reason option 3, the yellow one, became available was it was noticed that with the two blue options, even though we're going to put an easement, a permanent easement over the parking area, the non-building part of the lot, that gives the town exclusive use for parking and for whatever other use we want to use that for, traversing it. Those two blue options basically cut off the access to the rear entrance of the businesses in that back there. So through the acquisition of the Bank of America parcel, we own the parcel to the west. So behind the ice cream shop, behind the end building there. And should that easement be challenged after we're all gone from the council and there's businesses there, or if the easement's not challenged, if the owner of the bank or the owner of the bank, the future owner of the bank's building, decides that they want to, for example, make an offer to a future town council to buy that easement back, they could if the future town council decided. So the yellow option preserves the access in perpetuity, regardless of the easement. So even though we would still put an easement on all of the parking area, you'll see at the very top where it juts out, it preserves like an 8 to 10 foot walkway from the town's parking lot to those businesses so that they'll never be affected. Those access ways will always be there, regardless of who owns that easement in the future. Okay? So, thanks.
The second part is how and who is going to at least market and help us sell the property. I did get 3 proposals, 1 from Colliers, 2 from OL&R, and 3 from CBRE. CBRE was the firm that we purchased it through. All 3 proposals are the same in price. The one thing I will say is, I know there's been a lot of discussion regarding bidding and et cetera. I've spoke to the broker who I'm going to suggest you engage with, and there's no issue with there being sealed bids and where those bids go. They can all be opened in public at a meeting. We typically open bids in my office with a few witnesses and sign off them in real time, but those can also be opened at a special meeting, and that can even be done in executive session because under the statute, it's a real estate sale, so they can be discussed as well. So doesn't matter to me how the council wants to do it, but you do have options. The one thing I will say is, out of the 3 brokers, only 1 broker asked me to meet on site and really took some serious time to discuss the property with me, and that was Toby from OL&R. We met for several hours once, and then about an hour a second time. He had a lot of in-depth questions that nobody else was asking, and a lot of knowledge that I thought was really impressive. So all of the costs are the same. The costs are all capped at just under $50,000 under your financial regulations that don't require you to go to an RFP. So that's why you do have 3 bids under the 50,000 professional services for the RFP, and they're capped. So my suggestion is to go with OR&L just because of the time and energy that they've put in so far compared to the other brokers.
Okay, any questions for the town manager? Val?
Just a quick, Alex, they have some other properties listed in town, right? I've seen their,
I think that they have a lot. All of them
Seen their
do,
sign.
but OL&R has. They're more of a local or regional firm, not so
that's what I
much
was gonna ask.
international.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of
little bit more
local
local.
talent.
Would they, I noticed that they would like a 1-year
They would.
Term agreement, would they be open to 6 months?
They're not. They're holding firm at 1 year.
Yeah.
Because they said they're going to spend a lot of money and resources trying to market this. So they want to make sure
Because
they
1
get
year is a
their-
long time.
It is. It is.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for the town manager?
All right, the last item I have in my report is a steep grant resolution, and this came really late. So I apologize, you didn't hear about it until just recently. But the new round of steep grants just came up from the state of Connecticut, and they've increased them from $500,000 to $1 million. And at the last strike committee meeting, I'm not sure if Mr. Del Santo or Mr. Riccio wants to discuss it, but it was voted to apply to extend a street on West Center Street, on West Queen Street. Right now, the town is funding it itself. The costs have risen really high, and we're not able to complete the original plan. So the strike committee is recommending that we apply for the steep grant. There is a match. At the end of the day, the town's gonna put in about $300,000, and we're asking for just under $1 million from the state to complete this roadway. And it is important because an economic developer, economic driver, there's a memo from Mr. Perillo that's in your packet that explains the rationale why the town would do this. This has been a town-supported project for years. The town has supported this through its own dollars for many, many years. And at this point, we're looking to get additional state money to expand the project, to bring in an additional tax base into town.
Okay, any questions on
Mr.
that?
Chair, may I?
Yeah, please.
Just at the last meeting, I think I brought it up from our steep meeting, that there were a couple of options. I'm sorry.
Economic
Development meeting. I
Steep
brought up
meeting.
the steep grant, and we did have a couple of options, but we thought this was the option. It's got to be shovel-ready. There's a couple other ideas that we have. Unfortunately, we got to put some ducks in a row before that can be even discussed. So we think this is the most viable option. And
So-
once that road is in, I don't think we'll have any problem getting those lots filled ASAP.
Val?
So this is the only, from the committee's perspective, this is the only one
This is when we,
shovel-ready?
yeah,
that
unanimously
you'd have to-
agreed upon.
Okay.
Any other questions on this? I'll just say that we know that the grand list is stagnant. So industrial business is a great tax generator. And so, I think that this is aimed towards helping ensure that the grand list continues to have an opportunity to grow. Okay?
And Mr. Chair, it is a economic development grant, so it has to be
Right.
tied to some sort of a revenue base, and that's why it fits.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions,
We will have executive session after the meeting, after the public meeting with myself, the assistant town attorney. We're discussing union negotiations and strategies, as well as pending litigation.
thank you. Item 8, Town Attorney's Report. Mr. Assistant Town Attorney.
Yes, fortunately for you today, there's nothing new to report, so we'll not extend this further.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, any questions for the sitting acting town attorney? Nope?
I have one question in 7 parts. No.
Okay. All right, moving on to public communications. Item number 9, if any member of the public would like to speak, come on up and state your name and address for the record. Going once? Twice?
Dr. Laura Triano, 61 Russell Road, Milldale. I did have the opportunity to attend the Public Works Committee meeting last Wednesday, at which time I, on behalf of myself and a number of my neighbors who reside on Russell Road, had the opportunity to provide extensive comments about the poor conditions of our road and the multiple reasons for which it is long overdue for repair, like many roads in town, and why it should be considered for prioritization this year. As has been mentioned this evening and was also discussed at the meeting last week of the Public Works Committee, any work that's planned by Eversource is prioritized before any work by the town. We're finished. We've been so for a few years, and the conditions there continue to deteriorate. The second comment that I wanted to make also echoes some of the discussion from the Public Works Committee meeting last week, as well as this evening, regarding the town website. In general, it's not user-friendly as a taxpayer and a resident. It's not been so for many years. And a lot of the information in general is often out of date and is also often fragmented among a number of different pages that makes it very cumbersome to find relevant information. And now with this issue of prioritization of roads for repair over the next 4 to 5 years with the money that was approved at last fall's referendum, it becomes even more important. Discussion was made about a quite comprehensive document that was available from prior to the time of the referendum in November of 2024 up until last week. And that, unfortunately and unfortunately, was one of the only sources of information on the Town of Southington website that gave relevant background information about how this money is prioritized, or the process by which roads are prioritized. What do the different pavement condition index or PCI ranges mean? How is it, what are the criteria to consider a Cape seal as opposed to a repair? And again, all of that information was, for whatever reason, housekeeping, tidying up the website, was all removed last Monday, arguably when it's most relevant to town residents now, when the opportunity is being provided to the public, to the taxpayers and residents of Southington, to provide feedback on the preliminary road list that was made available. So again, in the interest of transparency and providing relevant information to the residents and taxpayers of the town of Southington, I would request that the council, as I requested of the Public Works Committee last week, to really consider moving forward and improving this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Trino. And I think the town manager, as part of the website upgrade, you're going to be looking at maybe creating an archive, right? So anything that was on the site that might have been moved off, putting in, that information will still reside there, so people can still go access it and be able to find it. Okay. Anybody else would like to speak during public communications? Okay. Hearing none, we will close public communications and move on to item 10, old business. We are looking for a motion to table item A, action on 295 Landing Street and 1316 West Street sewer swap.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Del Santo and a second by Mr. Palmieri. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, the motion to table passes 9-0. Item B, 22 Main Street, sale options and broker selection. We're looking for a couple decisions on this, everybody. We're looking for, of the three items that we have here for consideration, the first blue, the second blue, or the yellow, we're looking to see how we want to, redo the lot lines. And then we're also looking for the town manager's recommendation, a decision on OR and L as a broker, and any stipulations that may come with that.
Mr. Chair, are you looking for two motions on this matter?
Yeah, I think we should take them separately.
So I'll make, sorry.
Yeah, why don't we do the lot line one first?
I'll make a motion to use the yellow
Option 3.
option.
Option 3.
Not of the two blues, but the yellow option.
And we'll have this in the record, right, Mr. Town Manager? Okay. Okay, we have a motion on that.
Second.
And a second. Why don't we open it up for discussion? Chris?
Just to confirm, looking at the map and then looking at the proposals we received specifically from OR and L, it looks like that proposal is the one that they're recommending. I just want to confirm with the town manager, because I know you said they came on site. The yellow proposal looks like it mirrors what OR and L are proposing.
We didn't get into great detail about what we're proposing, because I made it very clear to them that I didn't have any authority to speak on behalf of the council, and that I felt that this was a absolute town council decision. It's a public issue. The map that was drawn is actually the current lot.
Correct.
That's actually the lot. So what you see on the proposals are redrawing lot lines. The one with the red outline is the actual current lot as
That's the way it sits today.
today.
The discussion with them was that the town council was going to decide on redrawing the lot and any stipulations, like the drive-through, which we want to talk about as well. And we would let them know exactly what the lot line was and what the details were behind any stipulations that we may have of the sale.
All right, so to clarify, what I'm seeing here, even though I'm looking at them side by side, it looks identical, but you're saying that's because they only put that in because that's the current
Yeah.
property.
They haven't seen these yet, Chris.
It's
Yeah.
actually, it's cut off a little bit.
Talking about this one?
Talk about this. Yeah.
If you look at this one, Chris, yeah,
that's what I'm looking at.
that's
Yeah.
the existing lot.
Yeah.
So that the other one you can see is an angled,
Right.
yeah.
Yes,
Couple,
I know
three
it's
spots.
And it's bigger, yeah.
Couple spots
So
shorter.
Mr. Chairman, can I give the reason why I thought the yellow one was the best in
Sure.
my sermonization of
Please.
these three options?
Yep.
Because I think that's where the town is going to be able to get back the most bang for their buck. I think it's not going to disrupt too much down there. I think whoever gets this property is going to be very fortunate because there's plenty of parking. I think it'd be a good place to operate a business. And it won't take away from the current businesses that are down there. I think the first two options is gonna maybe mess around with some parking and may take some things away that the public is currently comfortable with. And Paul mentioned about the drive-through. One of the options includes the drive-through. We don't want to close that off. We want to make sure that that will still continue to have access out to Apple Alley.
Yes, and so I was going to ask you at the end of this discussion, to consider adding in the drive-through as part of the stipulation for the lot line revision, that the drive-through be removed in a certain time period, 30, 60, 90 days from the sale, as well as any ground stuff that goes with it, guardrails, things like that.
So just another follow-up then. The difference between the dark blue, which is the middle page, and the yellow, how many parking spaces are in each of those plans? It seems almost comparable, although maybe the yellow one is a few more. I can't quite tell. So I don't know if you.
So I didn't look at the parking spots because it's the intent to maximize parking as is and not remove any of the spots. So whether the town owns the land or not, the town will have an easement for the parking in perpetuity, or they'll own the spots outright. I could count them, but.
It's 10 or 10 and a half.
Yeah, it
The
looks
blue one
somewhat
is 10,
comparable, yeah.
and then the yellow one is 10 and a half because it cuts through the part thing.
Yeah.
But just remember, again, in the stipulation needs to also say that we're going to have a permanent easement over the land that doesn't include the building.
Yeah.
For the town to use. So that when this gets marketed, the entity buying this building will know what they're buying. They're buying the building use only, while the town is going to retain an easement, a permanent easement over the non-building part of the lot. And the reason that the lot has to be so big is that it needs to meet zoning regulations. It needs to be 8,000 square feet or larger. And it has to meet a 20-foot setback from the building, minimum. So that's the reason why it's drawn like it is in the yellow and the blues, is that it meets the 8,000 square foot minimum, and it meets the requirement of at least 20-foot setback from the rear of the building.
Okay.
And the easements are most important because the alleyway is very important, and the drive-through that the chair mentioned.
Other discussions, Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would like to go back a couple steps. I know you're looking for two motions. My first question is, obviously, as the record shows, I've recused myself from all discussions in regards to this property so that there would be no conflicts. Since then, the town has purchased this property, and I'm just curious of what the property was purchased for? Again?
I believe it's $2,001,000.
Okay. So with that being said, what did this property get appraised at?
I believe it was 1.3. I can pull it up, the property card.
Well, I think the town.
It was 1-3, but that included all the lots,
All the lots.
all 5.
Now, who did that appraisal?
That was the town assessor.
Assessor's office.
When Bank of America was selling this, the aggregate of the building plus all of the lots that the town bought, I think it was close to around 1.3 million was the tax assessor's
Yeah,
appraisal.
I swore I saw something out there that was around more or closer to the 1 million mark. Was that maybe what it was appraised at by the bank when they were listing to sell it?
I'm unsure.
I never saw the bank, I don't believe I saw a bank appraisal. I know I took the assessor's website and added them all up, all 3 or 4 parcels. That's how I believe it came to about 1.3.
Just during that conversation, I believe it was 1.2 from Bank of America. So it was a little less, the appraisal that we were provided from Bank of America.
Okay. So with that being said, you know, I reached out to the town attorney. Obviously, he couldn't be here this evening, but he did share with me, because I was trying to do some due diligence on this, because, again, there's a lot of chatter in town in regards to a dollar amount like this. Residents always thought certain dollar amounts needed to go for referendum. So I got, you know, I guess what he gave to the council, which, you know, is his legal opinion, which, you know, just like anything, everybody's entitled to their opinions. After me looking at the town charter, and I think the spirit of the charter was that this should go out to referendum. So with that being said, you know, I'm going to mention, you know, what Lou mentioned in his recommendation or opinion. He mentioned section 732 of the town charter, which states special and additional appropriations. In this, it also mentions sections 727, 728, and 729. The last sentence, it also says, if such balance does not exist, the deficit so created must be included in the next following year's budget. The reason I want to read that last sentence was section 727, 728, and 729 of our charter talks mainly about the budget. And, you know, I think the intent on this was special appropriation on the current budget. It even says a little bit more that the town treasury, provided that there, hang on, let me go back. Okay, it says the director of finance, no. Any unappropriated and unencumbered cash balance in the town treasury, provided that there shall be an attached to the request for such appropriation, the certificate of the director of finance that such a balance actually exists free of encumbrance. When you look at encumbrance, encumbrance could be looked at many different ways. The town has debt, we have bonds, so it's not free cash if you literally default on our funds. So in my opinion, and again, this is my opinion, I did not see the letter from our town treasury, which is the finance director, you know, of a certificate that we are of encumbrance of that. And I think, you know, 732, the real intent was for the budget because it states section 727, 728, 729. Under section 746, referendum on bond ordinance, this states, you know, section B, any bond ordinance or resolution making a special appropriation in excess of $1 million shall not become effective until the same shall have been approved by a majority of those qualified to vote, voting thereon at a referendum called by the council for the purpose. I think that, you know, this council did a disservice, and I do appreciate Councilman Palmieri voting no against this, because I think this is fiscally irresponsible. You know, we couldn't get a loan, hypothetically, in the conventional world to buy a piece of property. And I get parking is important, but look at the bottom downtown Center Street. We have Ideal Forge. That thing's an eyesore. It devalues our whole downtown area. And, you know, if we're going to spend money, I think we let the taxpayers decide when it's a sizable dollar amount, because I have a feeling that if we were going to spend $2 million, they would like to see something done down at the bottom of Center Street, which could enhance parking. You know, it's a bigger picture to look at than just one spot in town. And I guess the town attorney gave a recommendation, but as we've seen on this council, we've been given recommendations by the town attorney in the past, you know, AMR, I'm quoting, and, you know, we go and then we find out that, you know, we can't, you know, maybe do, or the recommendation, I'm not going to get into the weeds on that, but, you know, I think this is something that we should have got a second opinion. I think that we have not followed our town charter in section 746. It states right there, and you could say, oh, there's a loophole, this, that. Well, 732, which is what was cited, mentions section 727, 728, and 729, which again goes back to the budget and making a special appropriation, you know, for how I look at it as the budget. And then it mentions that if we don't have such balance, that it shall be included in the next following year's budget. So I really feel that this is something that should have went out to the public, and therefore, you know, that's kind of where I stand on this.
Thank you, Jack.
When did we purchase the property on Lower Center Street?
No, I think the councilman was saying he would have preferred to purchase the Lower Center Street if we were going to do, I think that's what you were saying, right?
Yeah, well, if we're going to spend money in
If
their
we're gonna spend that kind of
downtown
money.
area, I
Understood.
think that we should have spent it in a more wisely way, or allow the residents, you know, to speak their concerns. That's, you know, what they have at the end of the day, is they get to vote on this. And I haven't had a chance, but, you know, maybe through the town attorney, is let's see what precedent has been in Southington. Let's look back and see what the precedent is. Let's see if we've put things out to bid, you know, or a referendum, I mean, that, you know, was over this threshold, and let the constituents vote on it. You know, I get it, we're the council, you know, but I also don't know what the ramifications are if the council did not follow the charter.
Thank you, Jack. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, it seems as though Councilman Perry, meeting after meeting after meeting, wants to put everything out to referendum and wants the residents to potentially have an election once a month. Weren't we elected to perform these duties as a town council for the common good of the town? I understand about transparency, I understand about getting information out, but it seems like every meeting you have something to say about, we're not letting the people know. The people need to have a voice. They have a voice. Every 2 years, there's an election. They vote for this body. And if we're not doing our job, come this November, anyone up here that's running for town council again will lose. I don't understand. It just seems like every meeting you want to have another referendum and you want more people to come up and tell us. We have 4 people in the audience tonight. You know why? Because they're comfortable with what's going on in this town. If not, there'd be 150 people.
So
So
I guess
hold on 1 second, Jack. Before you go, can I ask the town manager, did you want to make any comments about the charter and the decision on that? I know Lou was here.
I'm not going to make any comments on the charter. I'm not
Okay.
lose the authority, but we do have a letter from the treasurer and the finance director that was provided as part of Lou's opinion. And we do precedent. We do buy things with cash over $1 million every year. We bought a fire truck last year, $1.7 million. Every year there's over $1 million fire truck purchase typically.
Right, so.
But that's in the
so there's-
budget.
So.
That's in the budget.
Capital budget.
So, right, so maybe what we can do to the town clerk, if we can please pull up the email, I think it's in previous minutes, but let's make sure that the formal opinion from the town attorney on the purchase of the Bank of America property is included in the minutes of this meeting. The town manager can probably provide that to you. I believe the crux of the town attorney's, opinion was that what the councilman was citing was regarding bonds and bond ordinances and special appropriations. Paying for something cash is different than paying for something using a bond and taking on debt as a result of what's in the charter. Paying for an item in cash is, the town attorney had clearly stated that it does not require a referendum. So Jack, I want to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with that, it states, item B, any bond ordinance or resolution making a special appropriation in excess of 1 million. And to get back to Mr. Del Santo's comments, that tone, we all volunteer here, okay? To state that I come to every council meeting asking for referendums, please cite them. You know, I don't come here. I only want our government to operate transparent. I got involved locally because of that reason. And then, you know, you mentioned people have a voice. I mentioned earlier that you're right. We're elected to do a job, but then I'm ignored. That should not happen. So that is why I'm bringing this up. And in this being a big dollar amount, I don't think that we should move any further with this until we get a second opinion. This is something.
Mr. Chair, point of order. We have a motion.
And it's discussion.
To approve.
And I have the floor, Mr. Mr. Del Santo, I am speaking.
This has nothing to do with my motion, Mr. Perry.
Yes, it does.
It does not. The background, we're beyond that. We're beyond that.
So your objection, Councilman Perry, is noted. You don't want to see us go forward with this. It's noted. We do have an opinion from the town attorney. I know you did. You're contesting the purchase, the actual purchase of the property.
And I'm not going to end
that you
here,
weren't,
so,
that you
yeah.
that you recused yourself on, right?
Yeah.
You're contesting the purchase of the property that you weren't involved in. So
No, I'm saying,
your
stating
objection is
that
noted.
I do not think we follow the charter. And
Noted.
now, I guess, again, I was elected, Mr. Del Santo.
Right. You're
I'm
law degree.
asking,
Yeah, okay.
listen.
I have a law degree.
Jack.
No, I'm asking the town manager to look into this. I was elected by the people. I want a second opinion on this.
Your objection is noted, Jack. Your objection is noted. Any other discussion on this?
Yeah, I like to, the notion of being fiscally responsible was brought up. This purchase was fiscally responsible in the sense that we bought it with cash, as we said, but that cash was already in hand, okay? It's in our reserves, all right? We've already collected it from the taxpayers, okay? And we have the ability to, you know, buy things with cash if we need to, especially in a case like this, where if we had left it to bonding into referendum, we'd have been voting on that in November. This November coming, when obviously, you know, the ability to purchase this would have long gone. So the only way to do this was to buy it with the cash we had available in our reserves. That is fiscally responsible because it's a great decision for the town. We all know why we bought it for the town. We wanted to preserve the parking, and we acted, you know, in this way because we had 90 days to come up with bids for it. So it's fiscally responsible because it's a great purchase for the town, and we did it the way we should have done.
Okay. And anybody else have discussion? Chris?
I just have one other point. Mike, I just got to point out, you mentioned Jack is asking for a referendum meeting after meeting. This is the first time I've heard him mention a
me do some
referendum.
homework.
I'm not talking about transparency or other issues that we've discussed. Specifically, he made a comment about a referendum. You all know I did vote on this. I voted against it because I feel very similar. I also am concerned, in conversations I've had with the town manager, there has not been a time, even for public safety issues, where we have purchased, aside from capitally budgeted items, which are over multiple fiscal years. Alex, I'll turn to you again. Have we ever allocated over $1 million for a single purchase?
Not that I can recall over in one fiscal year.
Correct, which is why, again, there draws some question to the fact that we haven't done it before because of the language in the charter. Now, if we want to change the language in the charter, that's one thing. Look at tonight. We just proposed an ordinance change that we had residents here talking about that were in violation of our own ordinance if we moved forward and approved it. So I don't think it's a bad thing to have another opinion look at something. Is there any rush with these plans that are before us tonight? Because I do think that getting another opinion may help with some of the decisions moving forward. So is there any time frame for these three?
No, that's to me. It's to me, right?
Well,
I understand, but you're addressing the question to me. We've already had the objection. We understand the objection, Chris. It's noted. I'd like to ask other people first before we.
But you're not answering my question then. I said, is there any time frame to approve these three proposals tonight? Is there any urgency that says we have to approve them tonight?
The urgency is that we have a piece of property that we've purchased that we would like to replenish our reserves with the proceeds of the sale.
But
That's the urgency.
Yeah, at the
So
same
that's it, I'm
time-
sorry, Jack, let's just wait for others.
Yep.
Does that answer your question, Chris?
It answers my question. There isn't an urgency to it. I mean, we purchased it right away, but there isn't an urgency in that we have to make a decision tonight. 2 weeks wouldn't be
Thank you.
detrimental.
Councilwoman Clark.
It's getting increasingly frustrating to sit on this dais and witness a lack of urgency when it comes to providing realistic solutions to timely issues. And it becomes increasingly more obvious that, you know, while Mike was referencing Jack referendums, you seem to be running a platform here on the dais. And we're here to do business. It seems like a lack of urgency, as Paul said, to replenish, move forward with the sale. The wait and see doesn't work. We need to come up with realistic solutions, and that is the reason that why we were voted. It's frustrating to watch a platform being played out week after week after week, and it lacks business. It lacks efficiency. It's very frustrating.
Okay, anybody else have comments?
Mr. Chair?
Val, please.
So, yeah, I just want to speak to the process. So I agree with Councilman Morrison that this was reserve money. So I understand what Councilman Perry is saying when he's quoting the charter, but I believe the spirit of those sections are for when we're encumbering funds. And, you know, for bonds or special appropriations where we would be encumbering funds. There's also a question, if we start to talk about revising the charter, is $1 million too low? Things are much more expensive now, much more expensive. And when that 1 million was put in the charter, that was probably a long time ago. So if a charter revision committee was set up to look at some of these sections, I have a feeling that 1 million would be increased to, you know, it could be 2 million, it could be 3 million, right? But looking back on this vote, that's why we have a town attorney. We had an opinion from the town attorney, and, you know, I don't know how often we would look to get a second opinion. That's the town attorney's job, is to look at our charter, is to look at the whole picture and give us the opinion so that we have the legal opinion. We had the letter from our finance director, so we're following the charter there. We had, as Councilwoman Clark says, I think the parking is important. You know, I don't want to start comparing pieces of property on Center Street, but, you know, for our businesses downtown, this parking is critical. And if this property was sold with the parking, and that parking was taken away from the town, or we would have had to pay a lease for that parking, that really could have negatively impacted a lot of the businesses downtown. So, you know, it could go anywhere. I guess the question is, if we try to get a second opinion now, what does that do? Now we have two opinions. We might have two different opinions. So then do we go and get a third opinion? Because when you do appraisals, right, just as an example, you get an appraisal, then you get another appraisal, and then you get the third to find something in the middle. So where will it stop? I guess is what I would be asking. And not to say that we might not we could get a second opinion that might not agree with Attorney Martaccio. That clearly happens with, in legal opinions, but I think we would be forced then to get a third opinion.
And just for clarification, when you say the spirit is when we encumber, I think you mean
Well,
when we
that's
take
what-
on debt with.
That's
right.
where I went back and forth on this vote. I had to think really dig into it and really give it some thought. And in the end, with everything that we had in place, I felt that we were following our legal opinion. We had the money in our reserves. It was reserve money. It was not encumbered money, and that's where I see the spirit of the charter. And as I said, I do think that that charter we probably need a charter revision committee. But yes, yeah.
And, I know we have, Val, you're an attorney on the dais. We also have an attorney with Bill Dietzick, who's remote. And I think everybody was reviewing that charter at the time as well and agreed, those who supported it agreed with the spirit, as you had pointed out. I want to just pause for 1 second, since Bill is remote, and give Bill an opportunity. Bill, is there anything that you wanted to say on this topic?
No, I mean, if the town attorney was here, he could probably elaborate on his legal opinion, but, I mean, be very careful questioning your town attorney's legal opinion. You don't go to the doctor and the doctor gives you, a treatment schedule and then you question. I don't know. I think that's a very, it lacks caution to take that type of approach.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Other discussions? Mr. Vice Chair?
I just wanted to add one more comment. I agree with the comments from Chairman DiPaolo. I'm not a lawyer, and again, I'm an elected official doing a volunteer job here. We asked for an opinion from the town attorney. He told us that we were within our rights to do this. It was a time-constrained project. I know that Jack was asking about the value, the appraised value, and I did want to comment for the public that regardless of the appraised value, the value, as Ms. DiPaolo said, to our town is invaluable. And so we knew that there were going to be sealed bids, that there were contractors interested, and we had to put together a bid for this property that made sense. And I think our bid was sound and secure, and I stand behind that decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussions?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Jack.
Thank you. So I guess I just want to mention that, there's rules, and I look at our charter as the rules that we have to follow. When we don't follow them, where there's gray area, I think that's where you definitely ask for second opinion. I don't even know what would happen in the event you get a second, third, fourth, and it all, go to court, let a judge decide.
Mr. Chair, point of motion. I'd like to move my motion. This has nothing to do with my motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to table then.
Good luck.
Okay. We have a motion to table.
I'll second.
We have a second motion to table. Madam Clerk, call the roll for motion to table.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
No.
Del Santo?
No.
DiPaolo?
No.
Dietzick?
No to table.
Morelli?
No.
Morrison?
Yeah, absolutely not.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
No, the motion to table fails 7-2. So let's, your concerns are noted. Jack, thank you. I would like to ask if anybody else has any other comments on this?
I do.
If-
I got something to say. Lou Martaccio is a great attorney, okay? We have to trust our town attorney, as what Mr. Morelli said, and it's a slap in his face. I wish he was here tonight, because it's ridiculous. The notion is preposterous, that we don't go by the authority of our town attorney. Why do we have him then? That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Del Santo. I'm going to ask if you would consider making a motion, amending your motion to include a permanent easement on all property that is not including the building. So all the property that is not underneath the building. So the permanent easement would give the town exclusive use and rights to that in perpetuity for things such as parking, traversing, whatever the town feels is needed for that permanent. And then also, I'm going to ask if you would.
Mr. Chair, are we not supposed to be using our cell phones on the dais?
Again, it's a rule,
Thank you.
but we don't have to follow that, and
So
we
you
went
and her
over it.
can- You and she can pick up this conversation some other time.
So then,
I mean, it's ridiculous.
okay, let's, okay.
I have a
Thank
family
you.
in life as well, and this laptop is horrible, so I have notes
Then
and
remove
stuff.
yourself from the dais if you're going to use your cell phone.
Okay, Mike. Thanks, guys. And then the second thing that I'd like to ask for an amendment of the motion is the removal of the drive-through and associated ground components with the drive-through as well.
I will amend my motion to all the aforementioned discussion by the chair. Did you
Thank
get all
you.
that, Kathy?
And will we? Yeah, and then, Tony, did you make the second? Did you make the second?
I second it.
Would
yes.
you-
I second the
amended
changed
motion? Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the amendments.
Mr. Chair,
Is there
I'm
any
sorry,
other
can you-
discussions or?
Can you just summarize the motion?
Yeah, the motion is for the yellow.
The yellow parcel,
Right, and the yellow parcel has what I'll call is an L-shaped lot with a diagonal that traverses from the northeast to the southwest.
okay. And
And the motion includes basically the lot line revision for the building and the associated rest of the lot that's shown in yellow. But the motion also has a permanent easement that the town of Southington will own and record on the deed for all of the land that the building does not sit on, for the town's exclusive use as we deem appropriate. Today, it's used for parking, for driving on, for traversing, pedestrian walking, et cetera, but it could be for any town use. And then the second part of that motion is that the new owner, the successful owner who this is awarded to after a vote of this town council, will remove the drive-through at their cost, remove the drive-through canopy and all the associated ground components. So the support structures, there's an island in the middle on the ground with ballasts, posts, and there's some guardrails and things, and those should be removed to the agreement of our town staff.
so can I just, to clarify, what if there was a bank that wants the property and they want the drive-through?
Yeah, this was
That's my only concern.
considered.
I mean, I
And,
know there's not a lot of banks, probably, the chances there that it may be another bank is probably slim.
This was considered and discussed as well in that banks these days are getting smaller.
Right.
They're not using drive-ups as much like they used to. And not only that, part of the reason that we purchased this property, was for the parking. And by eliminating the bank drive-through, we could also add additional parking spots. And we wanted to keep the ownership of the two drive-through lanes and the exit to the parking lot. It's a curb cut, an existing curb cut. And so, the new business owner, whoever purchases this, would know that they're buying something that doesn't have a drive-through.
That doesn't have a drive-through.
And it's difficult to operate a drive-through there when the town is planning to use the parking adjacent to this and also planning to use the roadway, because we close that roadway for Music on the Green on Wednesdays in the summer. We close it for the Apple Harvest Festival. And so if there was a drive-through there that their business was really dependent upon, and we had to suddenly close the roads once a week, and on the weekends and during Apple Harvest and car shows, it could be a significant disruption to a drive-through business. And so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, I
that
just
was
want to
the-
be, I just want to be sure on the motion.
Thank you for asking. Okay. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll? I'm sorry. Tony.
I second it.
Yep.
I second the change motion.
Please call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Perry,
No.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Diedzik,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, the motion passes 8-1. Okay, moving on to item C, action on the steep grant resolution. I'm sorry.
No, the,
You have to do your second.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's right, we had the second part was to choose the broker. My apologies, everybody. I forgot we didn't have it on there.
Motion to choose O and L
OR and L,
as the broker.
as recommended. We have a motion and a second by the vice chair to take the recommendation of the town manager for using OR and L as outlined in the packet. Of course, it will be amended with the proper drawings and stipulations. Any discussions on that?
So, Mr. Chair, I just had mentioned it earlier, and the town manager said that they really do want a one-year term. Just in having done real estate, I believe 6 months. I just get nervous with a one-year term. If they don't do a good job, we have to understand that we're stuck with them for a year, right? Is there any way out? They're not.
I can't stop Mr. Del Santo from amending his motion to stipulating 6 months. I'll leave it at that.
So we're still in discussion, so.
Right, I'm just
certainly-
throwing it out. I
Sure.
mean, I like this company.
point.
I think I would agree, go with you have a good feeling about them. A lot of these sales, a lot of the agreements are generally 6 months. 1 year is just,
Can I ask, Val, would you like to amend the motions such that it's contingent upon their acceptance of a 6-month term? Or do you want to leave it at 12? I mean, we could always, one thing, if you have a second, for example, if we had a priority 1 at 6 months, priority 2, do you have a second priority, Mr. Town Chair, Mr. Chair? Mr. Town Manager, that was, that had a 6-month term? Did the others have 6-month terms?
I'll have to take a look.
I think the
Oh, I
other
see what you're
two were.
saying. So, Mr. Chair, what you're saying is if they're not okay with a 6-month, then we move on.
We move on to the next,
company.
right, the other
I'm
company
fine.
is then, if somebody else has a 6-month term.
And there is a proposal right in front of us. I'm reading it right now for 6 months.
Yep.
I mean, I guess you hear this a lot, that what they said to Alex was, well, we're going to put a lot of time in, we
Check
need
the other
to.
one out.
But other companies are going with a 6-month agreement.
Right.
I just feel as though, and it's not to say they're not going to do a good job, but what happens if we don't feel they're doing a great job? And now we're tied into an agreement for 1 year.
Good point. Yep.
Mr. Chair, I'm just curious.
Yep.
He's on the line. Mr.
Dietrich.
Diedzek, I'm just curious if he has an opinion.
Bill, do you have any opinion on 1-year, 6-month agreements?
I mean,
Sorry, Bill, I didn't mean.
my gut tells me. No, it's fine. I mean, my gut tells me it's negotiable. Everything is. I mean, you got to remember, I don't think this is the largest commission for them either. I mean, these are large brokers that specialize in this. I would feel comfortable asking for 6 months. I don't think it hurts. I don't think it's unreasonable. It's not like we're asking for 90 days. I would object to that, but I mean, I think 6 months is a fair ask.
Maybe just,
What's the third one?
maybe ask to negotiate it.
So CBRE has 6 months in there, as Mr. Palmieri said.
Yeah. Can I just suggest, again, as I mentioned earlier, I don't know what the urgent time frame is. So if we've got a motion before us tonight to go with O, R, and L for 6 months, I would think we leave it at that. If for some reason they reject it, then we come back and we have another
Next meeting,
proposal
vote on the
for it.
next one.
Versus stipulating if, then, and, I feel more comfortable.
I will amend my motion to change it to use the same company, but it's got to be a 6-month.
ORNL for 6 months.
ORNL for 6 months.
Okay, we have a motion. Mr. Vice Chair, did you want to second
Yes,
the amended motion?
I'll amend my second.
Okay. Val, how do you feel about that?
That's good.
Go for it?
I mean, I was going to say split the difference. Put like 9 months. Give Alex
No, 6 months is fine. If another company is going to do 6 months, then
And I would
feel
say,
like there's
sell in a
more-
day.
I feel like they have more urgency then to
and
get going and.
can we agree that it's 6 months from the time that the town completes all of the information that we need to give to them?
not tomorrow.
Because we may need to give them some stuff in writing, and you know what I mean? May
From
take
when
us a few weeks
From when it hits the market, when I sign the listing agreement, it hits the
when
market.
it hits the market. Okay, good. So it's 6 months from when they list it.
Yes, that's fine.
Fair. Okay. Anybody else on that discussion?
No, I'm just going to be voting no, because again, I think that we should be doing our due diligence with a second opinion based on what I've mentioned this evening.
Noted. Thank you, Jack. Okay, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Perry,
No,
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo.
yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes,
Dedzek,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, the motion passes 8-1. Item C, action on steep grant resolution.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to be recusing myself.
Okay, Councilwoman Clark will recuse herself on the steep grant resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the steep grant as presented.
I will
second?
second that.
We have a motion
Oh, let Val second.
and a second from Val. So Chris is the motioner and Val is a second. Any discussion on that? Chris or Val, you good on discussion? Anybody else? Okay, please call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Perry?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
DiPaolo?
Yes?
Dedzek?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes, motion passes 8-0-1. How'd I do, Mike?
Good math.
And item number 11, new business.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the tax refunds that are presented in our packets.
Tax refunds, thank you, Mr. Perry, and Mr., the Vice Chair, please. Any discussion on the tax refunds? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Item B, appointments. Okay, we have a couple. The first one is, we have Mr. Bob Tonin, who is a full commission member whose term is up, and I'm looking for a motion to reappoint Mr. Bob Tonin.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to reappoint Mr. Bob Tonin.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously, 9-0. I'm looking for a motion to table the second member of the four-year term expiring February 2029. That's a full member.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Oh, sorry. Bill, you in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously on the table. We have two appointments. Chris, did you want to do yours
Mr.
first?
Chair, I'll make a motion to reappoint Stacy Dolan. Thank you for her service. She has expressed that she would be willing to continue to serve.
Okay, we have
Second.
a motion and a second. Any discussion on Stacy Dolan? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion passes unanimously. And then I am looking for a motion to reappoint Mike Krasansky as an alternate.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion for Michael Krasansky.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Oh, sorry. Bill, you in favor?
Yes, in favor.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion passes unanimously, 9-0. Thank you to Mike Krasansky, Bob Tonin, Stacy Dolan. Looking forward to continuing your service. Thank you to Attorney Matney for your service as well. We'll be finding a replacement in due course. Okay, I'll be looking for a motion.
Chair, I'll make a motion to adjourn into an executive session, barring the press and the public, but allowing the assistant town attorney and the town manager.
And Lydia Mickles from Howard and LaDuff will be calling in.
Lydia from Duff.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we're moving into executive session.